Well, good morning, and you are right on time for this live broadcast of the National Assembly morning sitting on this first day of the month of March, the year 2023. This is a live broadcast that is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in partnership with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. In the order of business for the members of the National Assembly, there are a number of motions that are lined up for considerations. The members will be considering a motion by the member for Githunguri, Honorable Gathoni Wamushomba, on the development of policy on standardization and production of school uniforms in the country. This is a debate that members of the National Assembly began a debate on it, or this is a motion that debate on it began on the February of the 22nd, the year 2023, in the morning sitting. And today's debate will be a resumption of that particular debate that was interrupted. There is a balance of 16 minutes that members who have not been able to participate or give their opinions on this particular motion, they will be given the priority to talk on this motion. And it basically seeks to have the House resolve that the government, through the Ministry of Education, develop a policy on standardization and production of school uniform in the country. Again, also lined up for consideration is a motion on the continuous registration of beneficiaries of the older persons cash transfer program in the country. This is by Honorable Member Thaddeus Nzambia. This motion seeks to have the House resolve that the national government, through the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection, undertakes continuous and timely registration of elderly persons under the older persons cash transfer program. A motion by member of Dagoretti North, Honorable Beatrice Elachi, is also lined up for consideration this morning on the floor of the National Assembly. This motion is on the policy formulation on implementation and enhancement of EPZ programs in the country. And basically what this motion seeks is to have the House resolve that the national government, through the Ministry of Trade, Investments and Industries, develop a policy whose core objective will be to, among others, address the challenges currently faced by the EPZ, with specific focus on implementing EPZ programs to enhance performance and enable retention of investors across the country, to enhance economic sustainability and allow companies to pursue businesses locally through the 20% waiver to enable them earn a living. That is a motion by the Honorable Member for Dagoretti North, Honorable Beatrice Elachi, that is lined up for consideration this morning. Well, this is a live broadcast of the National Assembly morning sitting. I will now hand you over for this live broadcast that is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in partnership with Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Good morning.
Na tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, ambaye kwa hekima na wema wako mteua nyadhifa za viongozi na mabunge kwa ustawi wa jamii na utawala wa haki wa wanadamu, tukusihi tuzame kwa neema nyingi sisi watumishi wako ambao umeridhika kutuita ili tutekeleze shughuli muhimu za jamhuri hii yetu. Kwa kuomba uteremshie baraka zako sisi tuliokutanika hapa, na tujalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki, uaminifu, ili utukufu na sifa zako ziendelezwe na ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi hii yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amina. Sergeant at Arms to ring the bell for 10 minutes.
Well, the second chairperson of the committee, Honorable David Ochieng, who is currently taking the speaker seat, has just ordered that the quorum bell be rung for 10 minutes. Remember, this is according to the House standing orders that will be allowing members who are yet to walk into the chambers to be able to have that opportunity to get into the chambers to achieve the requisite number of, or rather the requisite quorum for the House to kick off its business. So members will be given 10 minutes to trickle into the chambers before the House commences its business. But a number of motions are lined up for consideration. This morning, the women member for the National Assembly of Laikipia County, this is Honorable Jen Kagiri, motion on the reduction of cost of electricity in the country is also lined up for consideration. This morning, according to the member, is that aware that the cost of electricity has been at an all-time high, affecting the cost of living and doing business, acknowledging that the Kenya Power and Lighting Company, PLC, Kenya Power, procures electricity from the Kenya Electricity Generating Company, PLC KENGEN, a government-owned company, and from independent power producers, IPPs, recognizing that Kenyan Power has entered into power purchase agreements, PPAs, with both KENGEN and the IPPs and procures power from them at unregulated rates, noting that there is need to regulate all IPPs in the country and publicize their locations, stakeholders, directors, management, and their addresses and agreements entered into with Kenya Power. Again, cognizant that recommendations from past task force reports relating to power purchase and rates have not been implemented, deeply concerned that Kenya Power has in the past procured a large quantity of power from the IPPs at a greater cost rather than from KENGEN, leading to higher cost of power. Again, cognizant of the fact that there is need to put in place policies, strategies, and regulatory measures for better planning to moderate the cost of electricity and enable access to energy by all, particularly in the manufacturing sector, to ease the cost of production and doing business. The mover of the motion will be seeking the House to resolve that the Departmental Committee on Energy undertakes an inquiry into the operations of Kenya Power in relation to agreements entered into with IPPs, factors affecting the cost of electricity, including over-reliance on IPPs, against available renewable and other energy sources and measures to reduce it, and submits a report to the House within 120 days. Again, the move of the motion seeks to have the House resolve. In the meantime, the Ministry and Kenya Power should not enter into new contracts with any IPPs until the House makes a resolution on the matter. If you're just joining us, this is the live broadcast of the National Assembly morning sitting on this first day of the month of March, the year 2023. And currently is a quorum bell that is underway, a 10-minute quorum bell for members to walk into the chambers to enable the commencement of the House business. The motion on the reduction of cost of electricity in the country by the Honorable Jen Kagiri will be seeking to have the House resolve that, informed by the reports of previous task forces on the matter, the ministry engages in negotiations with power producers with a view to reducing the cost of power. And again, the ministry and Kenya Power develop suitable strategies for engagements with the IPPs in order to provide relief for electricity consumers and ensure the long-term viability and sustainability of the energy sector. That is a motion that is lined up for consideration. Members, as you can see at the entrance of the National Assembly chambers, are trickling in. Of course, this is in line with the directive that a bell be rung for 10 minutes for the members to be able to walk into the chambers for the House to achieve its requisite forum to be able to commence its business. Honorable Geoffrey Ruku also has a motion that is lined up for consideration this morning. The motion on development of a policy and funding for junior secondary schools. Development of a policy and funding for junior secondary schools. And according to this member, is that aware that communities have continuously established learning institutions within their localities to address the inadequate physical facilities to support the attainment of universal access to education. Again, noting that the Kenya Vision 2030 envisioned progressive establishment of more schools, expansion and rehabilitation of existing ones in order to improve access to education. Member noting that further, the huge sums of funds, particularly under the national government constituencies, that is the majority whip. Yeah, the Sergeant at Arms has just signaled that the quorum has been achieved. So I will now hand you over for this live broadcast that is brought to you by PBU in partnership with KBC. Good morning. My name is Kamche Menza.
I order the bell to be stopped. I confirm that we have quorum. Order, members. Order. Order. Let's proceed with order number 1.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
The Honorable Majority Whip.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, March 1st, 2023, this morning's sitting. Number 1, first half National Government Budget Implementation Review Report for the financial year 2022-2023 from the Office of the Control of Budget. 2, report of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year ended 2022 and the certificates therein. A, Central Bank of Kenya. B, Public Sector Accounting Standards Board. And C, University of Nairobi Pension Scheme. Number 3, reports of the Auditor General and the financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year ended 2021 and the certificates therein. A, Masinde Muliro University of Science and Technology. B, Rift Valley Institute of Science and Technology. C, Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital and Research Hospital, sorry. D, Moi Teachers Training College, Baringo. And E, University of Nairobi. Honorable Speaker, reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following constituencies for the year ended 2021 and the certificates therein. A, Kitui Central, Machakos Town, Narok North, Makueni, Nakuru Town East, Kitui West, Mwingi West, Kiambu, Tongaren, Shinyalu, Nambale, Kiminini, Kiambaa, Ikolomani, and Butere. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
I hope those who have their questions listed in the order paper are in the House. And this chance goes to the Honorable Umul Khair Kasim of Mandera County. Give the mic to for Mandera. Umul Khair Bash. Is she in the House?
Yes. Sorry, Mr. Speaker. What are you going to say?
Just approach the table if you have confusion. Just approach the table to assist. Thank you, Honorable Wako. Give her the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask the following questions to the Cabinet Secretary for East African Community, the ASALs, and the Regional Development. Could the Cabinet Secretary clarify whether there are any interventions that the government is undertaking to assist people of Mandera County from the adverse effects of the prolonged drought? Could the Cabinet Secretary provide details of the total sum of money and the social assistance that the government has mobilized from the government ministries, development partners, and the private organizations towards alleviating drought and famine, particularly in Mandera County, and indicate whether the assistance has reached the target population? Could the government consider providing food rations to the affected families living in the drought-stricken areas during the upcoming holy month of Ramadan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I had asked a question last year in the last session, and from the Ministry of Water and Sanitation, I haven't received any response yet. Please guide us on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mulher. This question asked today shall be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Regional Development. I hope the chair is in the house. And as to the question asked in the last session, you probably is aware that the questions lapse. They're not like the bills and motions. So you will have to ask the question again afresh so that it then is lined up for reply in the usual manner. The next question is to be asked by the Honorable Peter Lochakapong, member for Sigor. Is he in the house? Yeah, he's in the house. Give him the mic. Honorable Lochakapong, you can move to the mic just in front of you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question 002 of 2023 to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration. 1. Now, what action has the government taken to arrest the officers who shot and killed over 100 heads of cattle belonging to Mr. Domoreng Todokor of ID number 309-60010 and Mr. Tepanyang Lokamar of ID number 309-66099 of Masol location near Kainuk area. 2. When does the government intend to compensate the two families for the loss of cattle and livelihood through police shooting? 3, now could the Cabinet Secretary consider deploying National Police Reservice in the North Rift region and particularly in Pokot Central sub-county to curb the increasing insecurity incidences? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. This question shall be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs. Is the chair in the house or the vice chair? The Honorable Peter Zakachopom, you know the question that was asked earlier and directed to your committee. I hope you're able to handle. The first question that was asked, I didn't know you in the house. It's advised that chairs and their vice chairpersons be looking at the order papers so that if there's an issue that concerns your department or your committee in the house, to be able to take notes. Thank you. The third question to be asked this morning is by the Honorable Umulher Harun MP. I don't know if she's in the house. With the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question 3 to the Cabinet Secretary for Education. Could the Cabinet Secretary state the tax exemption measures on sanitary pads the government has put in place to ensure they are tax exempt? Question 2, what measures is the government putting in place to ensure equal and timely distribution of sanitary pads to all school-going girls, especially those in rural areas and informal settlements? And question 3, what plans has the ministry put in place to ensure efficient and sustainable ways of addressing the challenges experienced by young girls as a result of menstrual cycles? Mr. Speaker, this is important because we're in the budget-making process, and this is something that we can give extra attention to, especially with the rising costs on matters sanitary pads and menstrual health hygiene. Thank you.
Important. This question shall be applied to before the Departmental Committee on Education. And I hope the Honorable Meli is in the House or is going to be informed that this is urgent and important, as the member has indicated. Next order.
Order number 8, motion. Development of policy on standardization and production of school uniforms in the country.
Members, this motion is almost spent. It has a balance of 16 minutes. And at the time of closing the last time it was debated, there was no one on the floor. I think the person contributing had finished his time. Are there any members who want to contribute to this? The Honorable Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute on this motion. Mr. Speaker, this motion is extremely important in our education system. The first question to ask is, do we need uniforms in schools, or can children go to school without uniform? In my view, the answer is yes. There are two important issues on the area of for having a uniform. One, in discipline. Once there's a set of uniform that children are expected to have, it's a sign of discipline that they'll keep those uniforms, they'll keep them clean, and therefore you get some uniformity, and it helps in enhancing discipline. Number two, Mr. Speaker, uniforms in our circumstances in this country, where people live in very social different backgrounds, but the children go to the same school, give us a sense of social equity. When children are in the same uniform, they feel the same, so that their backgrounds, their economic backgrounds, actually is not apparent just on looking, and that is extremely important. If you left it that kids will go to school with whatever clothes they have, it will be apparent when children come to school what their social background is. And sometimes kids even get embarrassed, depending on the kind of clothes, the kind of shoes that children will wear. So I think it is an important aspect of education that we have uniforms. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, what is important, and that the real object of this motion is actually the cost of uniform. Mr. Speaker, the cost of uniforms in this country is unbelievable. You go to schools, and the amount of money that's spent in secondary schools, like these secondary schools, the uniforms are a big proportion of the school fees. But when you go to secondary schools, it's out of this world. What is expected of kids to have? They are supposed to have, if girls, they are supposed to have a skirt, they will have blouses, they are supposed to have a sweater, they are supposed to have a windbreaker, the things that kids don't normally use at home. Even if they get the kind of shoes they're supposed to have, they'll have the normal school fees, they'll have shoes for sports, they'll have shoes for bathroom, in circumstances where otherwise these children would not afford that in their home situation. But now they are forced, when they're in school, to have this. Mr. Speaker, in an average family in this country, when one child goes to a secondary school, the cost of that one child to the family is enormous. If you look at the resources that go, the single child, apart from the school fees, just drains the family in terms of the requirements in school. So I think it is important we set a standard that will actually support the families. Mr. Speaker, there is therefore need for regulation. And what we are asking for basically is a policy. I think that's what this motion is asking for. And in my view, what is happening now, why we need that, is there are cartels in school uniform. When kids report to school, they are supposed, in some cases, to pay directly to the school for the uniform, and then they are provided. And basically, if you look at the cost that the kids are faced with, the parents are faced with, is much, much higher than what you would find in the open market. Mr. Speaker, it has gone to an extent where even in the market, there are actually cartels. Children are directed to specific shops. In some cases, when schools open, the shopkeepers actually come to schools with the connivance of the heads, so that they actually are paid directly, and the costs are extremely high. Mr. Speaker, that is something we must bring to a halt. When you talk to parents, when schools are opened, there is obvious exploitation, there are cartels involved in this, and I think school heads are involved. There is therefore need for a policy and some form of regulation. But Mr. Speaker, I would advise that actually this policy should just deregulate the market. The schools should just say, this is the kind of color we need, this is the kind of material. Where you make it, so long as it's decent, should be your problem. So parents, some parents are actually even tell us themselves, they'll get the cloth and make the uniform. So why are we insisting they must buy it at a certain place, they must buy from a certain shop? I think that is actually the best way forward to avoid these cartels. Mr. Speaker, I don't think we should go to the extent of actually getting the government to be involved in production of clothes or regulating production of uniform, because that will bring us into another bureaucracy. And once you get into that bureaucracy, again, cartels will come in and the cost of uniform will go high. So, Mr. Speaker, I think this is an area we should get into, save the parents the costs that are necessary as we clothe the children in similar uniforms for purposes of discipline and purposes of social equity. But there's an important issue, Mr. Speaker, that we should look at. Is this something that should be coming at this point, considering the outcry, the hue and outcry we have been having? Is it something that should not have been in the policy of the Ministry of Education a long time ago? If you look at the order paper today, what you are seeing is actually a deficiency in policy governance overall. This one is talking about uniform. If you go to motion, to order number 9, we are talking about registration of beneficiary in the older cash transfer person. Again, these are things that are affecting families that should actually be in policy, in governance. They don't need to come as motion. Mr. Speaker, if you go to order number 11, again, is the issue of electricity. So what you are seeing, and then number 12, the issue of funding for secondary school.
Order,
so
order. I mean, you're a ranking member now. You cannot be anticipating debate. We are debating order number 8.
Seeing it. So, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I support the motion, but the order, the whole of this morning is indicating there is a deficiency in policy, in governance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Nikal. If there were no deficiencies in all these places, there will be no need for parliament in the first place. There will always be a deficiency somewhere, one place or the other. Honorable members, the time allotted for this particular motion has lapsed, and I now do call upon the move of this motion, the Honorable Gadoni Muchomba, to reply.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to thank this Honorable House for the kind of support that I have received through this motion and the kind of debates that have been flowed around the issue of standardization of uniform through a government policy. But before I continue, Mr. Speaker, because I have some time, I would want to donate 2 minutes to the Honorable Gitonga Mukunji, MP for Manyata. Thank you.
Okay, the Honorable Mukunji.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Wamuchomba, for the 2 minutes. Honorable Speaker, I want to start by saying that this country is experiencing a lot of economic downtime at this time. And Honorable Speaker, there is unwritten fees that are coming to our schools, our day schools and our secondary schools, in the name of school fees, in the name of school uniforms. And Honorable Speaker, it has become a challenge because while the government subsidizes the school fees, the school uniforms are left to the principals of those schools and maybe the BOM members to decide. And it has become a challenge. Yesterday, the day before yesterday, I was looking at one school fee structure which was requesting 30,000 Kenya shillings for school uniforms, Honorable Speaker. And I feel this is actually a motion that will set things right by standardizing what is required for our day schools and our secondary schools. Honorable Speaker, our textile industry will benefit a lot if we are able to tap into what they are doing and ensure that we get uniforms that are standard. We can talk of blue uniform. Wherever a parent gets it, should be accepted in those schools, Honorable Speaker. And that way, we'll avoid businesses being done by principals of schools and BOM members for the sake of our education system. The right to education, Honorable Speaker, should not be determined by the uniform we wear.
Your 2 minutes are over. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Before I give my submission on what I have heard from the members in the House, I would want to donate another 2 minutes to the youngest member of Parliament, a young, aggressive young lady, nominated or specially elected, Honorable Harun Umu.
Very well, Honorable Omuchomba, next time you donate your time once so that you don't have to keep coming back. Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to contribute on issue number 8. I definitely support the policy on standardization because I believe while addressing the issue on school uniforms, we'll also be able to address the issue on Muslim students, especially wearing the hijab in schools. A lot of institutions have a policy, and this is a matter that has also gone to court. But with this new policy, we'll be able to address that so that there'll be standardization across institutions, both religious and non-religious institutions, because with that, we'll not have infringement of rights. From my own experience, I went to a school where we were not allowed to wear hijab, and this is something that kind of affected me negatively, and a lot of children are withdrawing from top national schools because of this issue. So this will allow standardization across board, whether Muslim, Christian, or any religion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Like I had said earlier at the introduction of my submissions, I cannot take for granted the kind and the weight that I have had and received from honorable members of this House along the motion that I introduced towards standardizing school uniforms and coming up with a government policy so that we can be able to bring some soberness in the industry. Honorable Speaker, the reason why this motion was introduced is because of the many complaints we have received as members of Parliament, especially during this time when we are introducing the junior secondary school in our primary schools. Honorable Speaker, yesterday I was in my village, in a village called Kamba, and I interacted with parents of Kanyore Primary School, one of the largest primary school I have in Githunguri, Githega Ward. And it was shocking for me to learn that most of the JSS learners are still at home because they cannot afford the new uniform that has been introduced. Remembering that they were in the same primary school, now they have graduated to JSS, the same primary school, but they have to buy new uniform. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, this is happening across the country. It is time for us to standardize and say, if we are to introduce new uniform, what material should we adopt? What quality? At what price should we not exceed? Because we have had schools that add profits on top of the basic requirement of uniform. A mere shirt that is worn by a boy, age 7, should not go beyond 4,500. In the market, the same shirt go for 800 or 1,000 at most. But why should a school dictate that a shirt worn by a grade 1, grade 2 boy be paid for beyond 4,500? Mr. Speaker, our schools are not business centers, but unfortunately they are becoming uniform business centers. Our teachers are not businessmen within the school compounds, but unfortunately they become active businessmen. Cartels of uniforms have come up. In my Githongori constituency, parents are forced to go to Kiambu town, 26 kilometers. Yet we have a town in Githongori where there are tailors. But our tailors are not involved in the making of the uniforms. A certain businessman who is moneyed has to influence the teachers to direct all the sales to their shops, and therefore rendering our tailors useless. Mr. Speaker, my motion towards standardization seeks the Ministry of Education to come up with a policy and guide on the quality, the pricing, the buying and the making, and even the color. Mr. Speaker, I have gathered a lot of contribution points from members here that we actually can standardize in counties. We can decide county 001, public schools can wear a certain color. County 022, like my county, we can standardize and direct that they wear a certain color, so that we stop this whole business of uniform vending across the county. I can buy uniform in Mombasa for a child who is in Nairobi, because tailors in Mombasa can make uniform in a cheaper way and make it cheaper for a parent. Mr. Speaker, I am one of those that came into this house for the second time as a member of parliament, having campaigned along the bottom-up policy, and therefore, I would recommend that we standardize uniform through the Ministry of Education so that we can allow our tailors in the villages to start making uniforms, open up the market, create competition, and lower the price for the Kenyan parent who is suffering. And therefore, I beg to reply. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Muchomba. I really share with your sentiments. Honorable members, I order that this question be put, the question on this motion be put during the next sitting for reasons indicated under Standing Order 53.3. And now, members, I wish to recognize the presence in the Speaker's Gallery of students from Ongata Senior School, Kajiado North in Kajiado County, and students from St. Hannah Boys High School, Langata from Nairobi County. They are welcome to follow proceedings of the House this morning. Next order.
Order number 9, motion. Continuous registration of beneficiaries to the Older Persons Cash Transfer Program in the country.
I can't see the Honorable Zambia on the front. Honorable Thaddeus Zambia.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that, aware that Article 57 of the Constitution outlines the measures to be taken to ensure the rights of elderly persons, noting that the elderly persons, particularly the vulnerable background, who are in the dire need across the country, require financial aid for their sustainability in regard to their health and well-being. Recognizing that the Elder Persons Cash Transfer Program, launched in 2007 with the purpose of facilitation of a monthly cash transfer to the disadvantaged and vulnerable elderly persons,
from identified deserving households who are 65 years and above across the country, concerned that registration of persons of 65 years and above across the country, concerned that the registration of persons of 65 years and above was last conducted in the year 2016. Concerned of the fact that there are many elderly persons who have since attained the age of 65 years and are yet to be registered under the Older Persons Cash Transfer Program, further concerned that the new entries, technological mode of fund transfer and development, digital registration of elderly persons, inadequate monitoring and irregular receipts of funds, this House resolves that the national government, through the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, undertakes continuous and a timely registration of elderly persons under the Older Persons Cash Transfer Program. Honorable Speaker, let me start by confirming that the cash transfer for older persons was launched in 2007 with the aim of providing a source of regular income for senior citizens to meet their basic needs. In 2013, there was enactment of the Social Assistance Act by the Parliament, which established the National Social Assistance Authority, tasked with providing social assistance to persons in need. The National Social Protection Policy that ensures that there is the delivery of social assistance, a right of social security to the vulnerable, is framed through the Social Assistance Act of 2013, which further led to the establishment of the National Safety Net program that house the 5 cash transfer programs, including the cash transfer for the elderly, the coordination and overall management of the cash transfer program for the elderly rest of the national level, and that cascade to the location through sub-counties. That is the sub-county level.
Order. Don't remember we just come in. You just go back to the bar and come back and go to the right side you want to go. Go back to the bar. When you get here, you cannot disclose where you've done. Just go back to the bar, bow, and come back to the house normally.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for instilling discipline to our members. They are still learning, we understand. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I was trying to say that the beneficiaries of this program have to be 65 years of age and above, under the criteria of geographical location and income. Honorable Speaker, Article 57 of the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, outlines the need to address the challenges faced by the elderly and guarantee their freedom and fundamental rights. Cash transfers for the elderly tend to ensure the challenges such as basic needs facing the elderly and that they are addressed. Most of the beneficiaries can at least afford 2 meals in a day when the funds are available, and this diminishes the chances of malnutrition. Honorable Speaker, the vulnerability of falling to ill has also been addressed through cash transfers, which help them to maintain, to access medicine and pay for their transport to their health facilities. Honorable Speaker, I am pushing to have continuous registration of the elderly for cash transfers that cannot be overstated, to be increased to ensure that the elderly live the modern life. There are so many challenges threatening the risk of poor health, sickness, injuries, poverty, whereas this keeps on increasing with beneficiaries qualifying every year. Honorable Speaker, the government of Kenya recognizes the importance of taking care of the old and the vulnerable. And in 2007, there was a budgetary allocation for the program, as well as the number of beneficiaries have been increasing significantly. Honorable Speaker, as a result, this program has made remarkable achievements such as access to basic health care, improved household food security, the establishment of small-scale income-generating initiatives, and dignity for the beneficiaries. However, the registration of cash transfers for the elderly came to stop in 2016. That is where the main concern is. 2016 is when the last registration was done. That is 7 years down the line, meaning that there are so many people who are elderly and have attained that age of 65 and above who are not benefiting. And as a result, Honorable Speaker, they are suffering so much, and the government has to intervene through making sure that we have timely and continuous registration for the elderly. Honorable Speaker, being aware that there are so many challenges which are facing this program, mostly service delivery challenges have had a negative effect on the effectiveness of this program. It has been noted that the delivery to the beneficiaries has been adequate and not in a timely manner. There has also been delays. The government has been delaying disbursement of these funds. At the times they take like even 3 to 4 months without the release of the funds to the beneficiaries. So the performance of the program has also been affected by irregular and unpredictable payments. Inadequate monitoring of the program has contributed to its ineffectiveness. So we need to have a serious monitoring of this program, the way we do release monies to free secondary education. We have to keep on monitoring how the funds are being released. Honorable Speaker, the beneficiaries who have qualified need to be registered and enjoy the benefits that come with cash transfers to cushion them from poverty and inaccessibility to basic needs. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude by stating that despite many challenges currently facing the cash transfers program for the elderly, there is a consensus that the registration of the program for the beneficiaries has to continue from where it is stopped, that is 2016. Honorable Speaker, the beneficiaries, the benefits of the program are crucial to the elderly, especially in terms of provision of their basic needs. Further, given that the entire economic situation of the country and the world, there is a lot of adverse effect. That is, there is a lot of drought, increase in the cost of living, and there is also a need to ensure that the beneficiaries who qualified since 2016, that is 7 years down the line, are registered in the program, and the continuous registration has to be taken with immediate effect. Honorable Speaker, you bear me witness, all these members of parliament from the 290 constituencies, they have been facing this challenge from the elderly. When we are in the field dispersing our bursaries, the auditor says, we just visit your home, come to the office, thinking that the members of parliament are the ones supposed to give them the cash transfer or the stipend. So, Honorable Speaker, as I conclude this contribution to the elderly, I would urge the members, we push the government to make sure that at sub-county levels, and especially in our chief's office, there is continuous registration of any elderly person who attains 65 years of age, so that we can have all the elderly benefiting from the same fund. And I would also suggest that from the records, those who have died, they need to be replaced. There must be monitoring of the data from the sub-county level, I mean from the village level to the sub-county level, where now we have the constituency offices. And honorable members, I think we can have a program whereby we can, our office, our staff can work with the sub-count officers from the national government, right away from the grassroots, that is from the assistant chiefs to chiefs, so that we can identify all those members who have not been registered and they have attained that age of 65 to make the smooth running of the registration. Honorable Speaker, I now open the motion for them to the members so that now they can deliberate on it. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And before that, I would like to call upon Honorable Parashina to second the motion. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Parashina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I would like to second the motion by Honorable Zambia on to continue registration of beneficiaries to the older person cash transfers in the country. Mr. Speaker, sir, I start by, we need first of all to acknowledge that there is a quite good population of the elderly in our constituencies, many of whom are not registered with the government special program, and that is denying the elderly social protection. The nature of our rural constituency, like Kajiado South, where I come from, or the one I represent, we fall under ASAL areas whereby we have minimum road networks, which is denying the elderly the access to government offices at the urban areas. There is a prevalence of disability with the elderly. And when they face the disability, this also affects their productivity. And when they are affected, they are not in one way or another able to take care of themselves. The elderly at the moment, since you see their registration was done last in 2016, I can guarantee they don't, when you go home and when you talk to them, they are not able to access health care and medication. And this is because they don't have any other source of income. The current situation in our country, where we are facing a dying situation of drought, it is really affecting these elderly and is making them to be affected so much that they don't have another option of how to survive. Right now, of late in our society, family responsibility has also turned to be to the elderly, and this is to our elderly women whom take care of their grandchildren. That is in the villages. And when you meet these also elderly people, they have turned to be beggars. They have turned to be beggars because they don't have any other source. So I second the motion, and I wish to plead with my fellow members that we are aware that our elderly are being isolated now. And if the people isolate the elderly and the government again isolate the elderly, then we don't know where they are going. We need to acknowledge and appreciate that these elderly people, most of them, they have contributed in the building of this nation, either formally or informally. So it is a time now, this motion can be debated, and several ideas can come in, but the main issue is that let us start the process of registration. I would like to second the motion, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Honorable Pashai. Honorable members, I also wish to recognize the presence of the public gallery of students from Kanyakine High School, from South Imenti in Meru County, and students from Muslim Academy Primary School from Zarehe in Nairobi County. We welcome them, as usual, to follow the proceedings of the August House. Honorable members, now I proceed to propose the motion that, aware that Article 57 of the Constitution outlines the measures to be taken to ensure the rights of the elderly persons, noting that the elderly persons, particularly from vulnerable backgrounds, who are in dire need across the country require financial aid for their stability in regard to their health and well-being. Recognizing that the Older Persons Cash Transfer Program, launched in 2007 with the purpose of facilitation of monthly cash transfer to the disadvantaged and vulnerable elderly persons from identified deserving households who are 65 years and above across the country. Concerned that registration of persons of 65 years old and above was last conducted in 2016, cognizant of the fact that there are many elderly persons who have since attained the age of 65 years and are yet to be registered under the Older Persons Cash Transfer Program, and further concerned that the program has in the recent past undergone unprecedented encounters in regard to new entries, technological mode of fund transfer developments, digital registration of elderly persons, inadequate monitoring and irregular receipts of funds, this House resolves that the national government, through the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, undertakes continuous and timely registration of elderly persons under the Older Persons Cash Transfer Program. And the first member to have a bite at this cherry would be the Honorable Charles Ngusia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this motion. From the onset, I would like to take this opportunity to thank and congratulate Honorable Zambia, my brother, for coming up with this important motion affecting the whole country. In fact, this is not a constituency issue, it is a national issue. I also take this opportunity to thank the previous government for operationalization of this cash transfer program. We started badly, but we are doing very well in terms of disbursing this cash, because we have seen services improving from actually centralized level to ward levels, Mr. Speaker. I don't need to highlight the issues of benefits of cash transfer program. Number one, it improves the living conditions of our elderly. And we've seen so many cases where this cash is given to vulnerable people. They survive by buying their food. They go to actually to hospitals, and elderly people are vulnerable when it comes to issues of health. So it is a very important cash transfer program. It also helps them in accessing the economic and social services. And we have seen many cases, those who have received this money actually even opening businesses and keeping them busy. And by doing so, keeping them active, it will also help them in aging gracefully. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a very important cash transfer program. The other issue actually on this cash is it has helped in the reduction of extreme poverty and what we call intergenerational transfer of poverty. So this cash needs to be really supported by everybody. We recall the last exercise, which was done countrywide, was 2016. And this is now, we are in 2023, 7 years ago. And majority of the people who used to access this cash have passed on, or maybe they are no longer existing, and we have not seen any replacement. Majority of the people who are at the age of 60s, they are now at the right bracket to access this cash. And yet, the Ministry of Social Protection has not updated the register. It is high time we do this exercise in an open and transparent manner to ensure those who rightfully need this cash, it is done. And I'm calling upon our next budget, we need to consider increasing the budgetary allocation for this cash transfer program so that we can have as many people as possible in all the 290 constituencies accessing it, if we have seen the benefits of it. With those few remarks, I don't need to labor more. Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.
The Honorable Kirwa. You know, when I'm presiding, there's no two rules about this. If you are next in line, you contribute. Honorable Kira, this is your chance to contribute on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to this motion about cash transfer for the elderly. It is truly a motion that needs attention from all members, and as a nation, we need to look into it. The cash transfer for the elderly has made a big difference in this country in improving the living standards of the elderly and also reduction of poverty. From 2016, since the registration took place up to now, there is several elderly people who have qualified to be also in this program, but for some reason or another, they've not been added into the roll. And as such, Mr. Speaker, I urge the social services really to take time and consider registering new members, which are a lot of them, but more than anything, there has to be a way that we need to increase the amount that they are receiving at the moment. I think it's about 2,100, but it has to be increased so that it also meets with the standards of living that has also increased in the country. If you go to the rural areas or a constituency like Mosop, as I go around, the question that I receive a lot is the older generation is asking me, when are we going to get the cash transfer? When are we going to get registered? Because a very small percentage of the elderly in my constituency really receive, but a huge population of them does not receive this cash transfer, although they've qualified by age, but some way, somehow, even then, when the registration took place, some of them never got an opportunity to be registered to receive this cash transfer for the elderly. So I support this motion that we go back and do the registration again and also consider every single one of those citizens who have qualified, but more than anything also consider the standard of living if we need to increase it. But beyond anything, I believe that every citizen who has qualified should be able to receive, and the new registration should take place, and it will make a difference in the lives of the citizens of the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support the motion.
Well said. The Honorable Edith Nyanze.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Let me take this opportunity to congratulate Honorable Nzambia for coming up with this motion on transfer of cash to the elderly. Actually, if there is a problem, I'm sure each and every one of us gets on the ground is when the elderly people come to us to ask when are they going to be in the file, when are they going to be registered, when are they going to start getting money. So there's need to standardize. There's need for continuous registration of this fund so that when one hits, let's say 70 years, that they are automatically registered. Because this will really help them. We will help the elderly to get this money, because when one gets older, they are exposed to many diseases, they get weak, and this is the time they really need the money. Most of these people are retired. Most of these people do not have enough energy to work for themselves. So this cash comes in handy, especially in meeting their hospital bills. And I would even suggest that in the future, this money could even be used to actually help them register for NHIF. Because from the 2,000, if they could be getting just 500 from this cash transfer fund, if they could be getting 500 and then it's put in NHIF, then this will cater for their medical needs. So this is very important. It's very important to have this program being done continuously, because this helps the poor households to reduce extreme poverty and intergenerational transfer of poverty. And continuous registration would improve also our economy. It will also improve on the health of the elderly people. So I say that I support this motion because it will enable our elderly people to be economically stable. But there's also another problem which I've noticed, especially when these elderly people get older, there is no one to take care of them. There's a problem of insecurity. Like last month, there's one old woman who was killed in my village, who was about 90 years after getting the 8,000, because someone was trying to strangle her to get that money. So there's also need for the security of this money. As they get registered, they also need the family members to take good care of them so that they are not exposed to insecurity, because people are getting poorer and poorer every day. So 8,000 wouldn't mean so much to them, so it would attract, sometimes it attracts. Some people are interested in this money. So, Mr. Speaker, I say I support continuous registration of this cash transfer fund so that we standardize. It should not just be for a few people, but for everyone who reaches the age of 70 or 65 and above. Thank you. I support the motion.
Thank you. The Honorable Pukose.
Mheshimiwa Spika, nashukuru kwa kunipa fursa hii ili niweze kuchangia mjadala ambayo imeletwa na Mheshimiwa Thatias Nzambia, mjumbe wa Mwingi ya kusini ya kaskazini. Nashukuru Kilome, naomba samahani, mjumbe wa Kilome. Nashukuru Mheshimiwa Nzambia kwa kuweza kufikiria kuleta mswada ambayo inachangia kwa mambo ya malipo ya uzeeni, kwa sababu wazee wengi mara ya mwisho kufanyiwa kuandikishwa ni mwaka 2016 na hadi wa sasa unakuta hawa wajumbe wengi wanapoenda nyumbani wanapata ya kwamba wazee wanauliza pesa yetu sisi wengine tumefikisha hiyo umri ya miaka 65 na hatujaandikishwa, ni lini tutaandikishwa? Kwa sababu hiyo ndio imekuwa mjadala kubwa kule mashinani. So Mheshimiwa Spika, nafikiri hii nyumba tunaiomba iunge hii mswada, na mimi naiunga, kwamba iwe mambo ya registration, kuandikisha hao wazee iwe ni process ya kufanywa kila wakati, kwa sababu mtu anaposaliwa sio wote wanasaliwa safari moja. Leo mwingine amesaliwa, kesho mwingine, na watu wanasaliwa siku tofauti tofauti. Kwa hivyo watu wanaufikia ule umri ya miaka 65 wakati tofauti. Na kwa hivyo ukifanya mambo ya kusajili, inatakana kusajiliwa kila wakati, so that ile ofisi ya social services, ile kwa mfano katika constituency yangu ya Endebesi, ile ofisi ya social services pale karibu kwa ofisi ya DC, iwe ikifanya registration kila siku, kwa sababu wale wafanyikazi wa serikali wanapoandikwa wako wanakula mshahara kila wakati, na wewe unapoingia kule ofisini ni msharti msee akuje, kwa sababu hii mambo ya kuandikisha wengine na inaandikishwa mara moja pengine baada ya miaka. Sasa kwa mfano iliandikishwa mwaka 2016, sasa hii ni mwaka 2023, ni karibu miaka 7 zilizopita ndio hiyo mambo ya registration ilifanywa. Kwa hivyo tunapofanya registration usajili mara moja kwa muda mrefu hivyo, inachangia pia katika ufisadi, kwa sababu wale wanakuja pale wengine ndio wataandikishwa na wengine wanakosa kuandikishwa. Ndio unapoenda mashinani unakuta kuna wale wazee wanapokea hiyo maruburubu na kuna wale hawapati hizo maruburubu, na wale hawapati hiyo maruburubu wanaumia. Wale pia wanapata saa nyingine pia malipo. Hii inatakana iwe ikilipwa kwa wakati ufaao na iwe inalipwa kwa njia ambayo ni mzuri. Wakati mwingine unapoenda katika ile foleni ya hao wazee kupata hizo maruburubu, unakuta laini ni mrefu, wazee wamekuja pale mapema, wanaanza kulwa na njaa, unajua ni shida kubwa. Unakuta wasee wako katika laini wanaongoja kupata ile marupurupu, na hiyo marupurupu pengine imekuja baada ya miezi karibu 6. Na unajua wakati tulipoenda hata uchaguzi, hiyo pesa ya marupurupu ya wasee haikuwa inalipwa, imeanza kulipwa juzi na serikali hii ya Rais William Ruto. Kwa hivyo unapata ya kwamba wasee wengi wakati huo tulikuwa unaangalia unaenda kule mashinani, wasee wengi wanalia, wanasema tuko na njaa, tuko na shida mingi. So Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nafikiri hii jambo ambalo limeletwa na Mheshimiwa Sambia ni mambo mazuri. Sisi tunataka hii nyumba iamue, na hiyo pesa iwekwe na kamati yetu ya budget, iwekwe kwa wakati mzuri, na serikali pia ifuatilie kwa njia mzuri. Wale wazee wote ambao wamefikisha miaka 65 na kuendelea juu, wote ambao wako katika taifa letu la Kenya, waweze kuandikishwa, wawekwe katika orodha mzuri, waanze kupata hiyo marupurupu sawa mara moja. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, nashukuru kunipa nafasi hiyo kuichangia, na hii mswada mimi naiunga, na nataka nyumba hii ipitishe haraka na serikali iweke pesa na hao wasee walipwe. Asante sana Bwana Spika.
Asante sana. Nafasi hii itamwendea Bwana Adams Kipsanai wa Keyo Kusini.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, vile vile ningependa kuchukua nafasi hii kuchangia katika hoja hii ya uandikishaji ya pesa ya wazee katika jamii, na ningependa kumshukuru sana Mheshimiwa Zambia kwa kuleta hoja hii. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama tunavyojua wote, uchumi ya taifa yetu iko katika hali ngumu, na ni kwa kweli wazee wetu ambaye walifanya kazi mingi kujenga taifa wanapitia mazito, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo pesa hii itaenda kuwasaidia ili kuhakikisha kwamba wanaenda kukimu maslahi kama vyakula, madawa, kuisupport jamii yao kwa mambo kadha wa kadha. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiangalia vizuri ni kwamba wale watu ambaye wakongwe katika jamii yetu hawapewi kipaumbele na baadhi ya jamaa wao. Kwa hivyo pesa hii itawasaidia sana kukimu maisha yao. Ukienda kule mashinani, Mheshimiwa Spika, maswali kadha wa kadha ili kwamba ni lini tutapewa pesa hii ili tuweze kujisaidia. Kama kule eneo bunge langu la Keyo North constituency, eneo bunge langu la Keyo North, wazee wengi wanaulizia kwamba ni mtindo gani unaotumiwa ili kubagua kwamba mzee huyu amehitimu, ule mwingine bado. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri sana tuangalie ndiposa tuweze kuwaingiza wale wote ambao wamefika miaka 65 ama 60 kwenda huko mbele. Na kando na hiyo, nataka kuunga mkono yale contribution, mchango ambayo iliwekwa na ule mheshimiwa, kwamba japo tunataka kuandikisha na kuhakikisha kwamba wanapata pesa hii, ni mpango gani utawekwa ili kuhakikisha kwamba wale ambao wanaenda kuipata wasije wakawa wanavamiwa. Na pendekezo mzuri ni kwamba iwapo watajulikana ni mzee huyu na huyu, ni vizuri pia kuwahusisha wale machifu ama wazee wa mtaa ndio waweze kulinda hawa wazee hawa. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kuunga mkono, kwa sababu wazee hawa wakiwa na pesa hii, jamii hao itawatunza kwa heshima, hadhi ambayo wanastahili. Kwa sababu tuko katika jamii ambayo kama una chochote ambao unajilinda nayo, maisha inaenda kuwa migumu. Kwa hayo na mengine mengi, shukrani sana, naunga mkono mswada huu. Asante.
Asante. Hii nafasi ni ya mbunge wa Kuisero.
Thank you, Speaker.
Dr. Batandi, why are you carrying your hands up? I can see your name down here. You'll have your chance when the time comes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for according me this opportunity also to contribute to this motion by my good friend, Engineer Zambia, to ensure that there is continuous and timely registration of elderly in our society. Honorable Speaker, I also wish to recommend that we include people living with disability, orphans, and also people living under some acute conditions, Mr. Speaker. Having this process done, Mr. Speaker, one, it will guarantee good life to these senior citizens because they'll be able to procure and have enough food to support their lives and their families. Having these people registered on a timely basis, we also guarantee them good health care because they'll be able to access quality health care. Three, having enough and many of them registered will spur economical growth because, Honorable Speaker, there will be increased circulation of money and the high purchasing power will improve on our economy. But as we do this, Mr. Speaker, we must ensure that this process is done in a very fair manner that will ensure that all eligible or needy elderly are only ones who are registered and ensure that those who are pensionable are not accorded an opportunity to be on this list. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, as we do the payments to these elderly people in the society, we must ensure that their payments are through electronic system. We've had challenges when we are paying these elderly because they crowd in one places. It is my submission that as we do this, we ensure that their payments are put on an electronic platform to ensure that there are no congestions, there are no fake people coming in between to block them and ensure that they get their money at their point of need. Mr. Speaker, I submit. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Muchomba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First of all, allow me, Honorable Speaker, to congratulate the Honorable Zambia, a very aggressive lawmaker, a second-timer member of parliament, who has decided to bring salvation to the elderly persons of Kenya. Congratulations, Honorable Zambia. You know, the elderly people of Kenya are somehow forgotten. The elderly people of Kenya have no voice. If such honorable members don't come to this house and represent them, they have no one to turn to. Honorable Speaker, allow me to say that the issue of elderly persons of Kenya is a very sensitive issue that needs to be given a lot of weight that it deserves. Reason being, these are the people who fought for the independence of the Republic of Kenya. These are the people who took care of us, took us to school, worked so hard to make Kenya grow economically, politically, and socially to where Kenya is. Unfortunately, most of these people, Mr. Speaker, when they retire as public servants, they do not have a medical cover, and that is the time they are very vulnerable to all manner of diseases, but they have no medical cover to take care of themselves. Honorable Speaker, the government of Kenya, through Article 57, is obliged to take care of the elderly persons of Kenya as recognized by the Kenyan Constitution. Unfortunately, we have been discriminative. We have provided the social assistance programs to these people discriminatively. We have entrusted the area chiefs and sub-chiefs to discriminate against our elderly persons when they go out for registrations for the social assistance program. I want, first of all, to make it very clear, Mr. Speaker, as a lawmaker, that I have invested very seriously in this sector of the elderly persons. For records, I already have a bill titled Geriatric Bill 2020. I tried to push this bill or to table this bill in the 12th Parliament, but I did not succeed to complete. I am excited because through the amendment of the standing order, I now have an opportunity to push this bill to the 13th Parliament, and it's already published, Mr. Speaker. Now, to add on to Honorable Zambia's motion, it is the right of the elderly persons of Kenya to get social assistance without begging through the chiefs and the sub-chiefs when there is registration. In the past, Mr. Speaker, the elderly persons were only allowed to get into the registry of social assistance program if they prove that they do not have a dignified house, or they prove that they don't have dependent children or caregivers who are earning well, a task that the area chief cannot be able to prove. And therefore, registrations were done discriminatively. There are so many elderly persons in the villages who do not receive the monthly stipends as they're supposed to receive just because they were discriminated against during registration. The fact that my mother lives in a stone house doesn't mean that she has an income. She could have gotten that house through her late husband who is no longer providing. She could have had been working maybe somewhere and she had income, but now she's retired and she cannot even afford a cup of tea. And therefore, it is important for us to come up with a serious bill. We make law that will provide for a dignified social assistance program for our elderly persons of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, other than just the social assistance, we need to look at the health of these elderly people. We need to provide for the medical care for these elderly persons. Mr. Speaker, if you go to Kenyatta National Hospital, you will find all manner of doctors, and I'm humbled to see some of the doctors who have served in Kenyatta National Hospital in this house, the Honorable Dr. Nyikal. Allow me to say it as it is. We have specialized doctors for children, we have specialized doctors for women, but we don't have specialized doctors for elderly persons. It is called geriatric medicine. If you go to all the institutions that are training medically, we do not have geriatric medicine trained in our local institutions. Mr. Speaker, when an elderly person is admitted in a ward, they are only allowed to go to a female ward or a male ward. But we don't have geriatric wards. We mix our 92-year-old man with a 26-year-old boy in the same ward. We give them the same food. We provide the same medical services to the same. It is time for us to create geriatric wards. It is time for us to introduce geriatric medicine in our hospitals so that we can dignify the health services for our elderly persons. Mr. Speaker, I can speak forever about elderly persons in this country because our elderly persons are even exposed. Their land is being taken forcibly from them by their sons and daughters. Our police force does not even have a way of protecting the elderly persons. By the way,
Muchomba, aren't you debating your bill?
I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm supporting Honorable Mr. Speaker, but I start guided.
I would request that you stick to the motion on the floor.
Thank you. So I want to say that the initiative that has been brought in this house by Honorable Zambia is actually the right way to do. It is the right way to debate. It is the right way to enact laws and amend laws so that we can accommodate our elderly persons in the national government budget and give them the budget they deserve for a dignified life and protection by the government of Kenya. And therefore, I proudly support the motion and request that the House continue supporting it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This chance goes to the member for Cape Kelion West.
The mic. Oh. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to congratulate my friend, the Honorable Zambia, for coming up with this important motion, Mr. Speaker, touching on the cash transfer for the elderly people. And to state, Mr. Speaker, from the onset that I support this motion. But I support it, Mr. Speaker, beyond the continuous registration to actually asking this House, Mr. Speaker, to allocate resources to be availed to those old men who have been registered, Mr. Speaker. When this program was started way back, Mr. Speaker, it was targeted at the elderly poor who live below $1 a day. That is why you arrive at 2,100, because the dollar at that time was 70 shillings. When you multiply by 30, it comes to 2,100. But Mr. Speaker, as we talk now, the dollar is at 120. We need to register these old men and to increase resources to match to help these elderly to live quality life. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, it is also prudent that while we continue to register, we know that the dollar is now at 120, and therefore the cash transfer should go to 3,600 on the minimum, Mr. Speaker. But this, Mr. Speaker, requires this House to collectively support the Committee on Social Protection to avail resources so that when these elderly are registered, the resources find their way to the village where most of them are. As we speak, Mr. Speaker, as of now, only 853,000 elderly have been put on this program, against a target of 4 million elderly persons in the Republic of Kenya. The Social Protection Department in its BPS, Mr. Speaker, intends to add this by a paltry 100,000 older persons. We are asking this House, Mr. Speaker, to inject resources so that we can register even 2 million people into this program. And as we do that, Mr. Speaker, we must also ask the ministry to invest in technology so that our old men will stop going to queue in the offices of chiefs and assistant chiefs. And when they are paid, they are supposed to give a bribe so that they can get what is duly theirs. It is important, Mr. Speaker, that the ministry invest in technology that can even update the data of those who have been registered, to remove those who have been gone out on natural attrition, and we remain with a specific number, Mr. Speaker, of the real people to benefit out of this social program. And it is not expensive, Mr. Speaker, to ask the people of Kenya through this honorable House to support their elderly. Mr. Speaker, most of the time, you see even on this relief food, if we could map the areas where people are suffering from hunger and give them cash transfer, people can buy their own food instead of fueling lorries every other time and allowing corruption to thrive in every stage, so that we can help the people of Kenya to live a dignified life, Mr. Speaker. And this is in line with the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, especially where it says the Kenya Kwanza government will register all elderly persons in the new NHIF platform. So, Mr. Speaker, while we support this, this is a motion that calls for additional resources to the State Department of Social Protection so that we can even increase the numbers from the 1 million we are projecting this year to 2 million persons, and thereby, Mr. Speaker, guarantee a minimum of 10,000 persons in each of the 290 constituencies. Because the program before was even, Mr. Speaker, skewed to those areas which were politically correct. It is time to call for fairness. The elderly of Kenya deserve attention in equal manner, and Mr. Speaker, I support this motion. Thank you so much.
I suppose that is the chair of the Social Protection Committee. That's why he's passionate about this so much. The Honorable Nyamai Rachel.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia fursa hii niweze kuchangia mada hii ambayo imeletwa na mbunge wa the Honorable Thaddeus Zambia, mbunge wa Kilome, na nataka kumshukuru sana kwa sababu amekuwa akileta mijadala ambayo inasaidia wananchi, na pia amekuwa akifanya kazi nzuri sana kwa watu wa Kilome. Kwa hivyo kwanza nataka kumshukuru, na niseme ya kwamba mimi kama mbunge wa Kitui South, Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo hili la kuendelea kuandikisha watu ambao wamefikisha miaka 70 ni jambo muhimu sana kwa wananchi wa kwangu wa Ikudha, sub-county ya Ikudha na sub-county ya Mutomo. Kwa sababu mara ya mwisho watu walisajiliwa ilikuwa ni mwaka wa 2016, wakati tulikuwa tunakaribia uchaguzi. Na wale ambao walikuwa miaka 69 wakati huo, saa hii wamepitisha miaka 77. Na naunga mkono ya kwamba hawa watu wanafaa kuandikishwa mara moja kupitia kwa constituencies, na sana sana zile constituency ambazo ziko na zaidi ya sub-county 2 kama constituency yangu wasiwekwe mahali pamoja, kwa sababu utapata ya kwamba Mheshimiwa Spika, katika constituency yangu, eneo bunge langu la Kitui South, hawasajiliwi katika sub-county ya Ikudha, wanasajiliwa katika sub-county ya Motomo. Mheshimiwa Spika, utapata ya kwamba hawa watu wengine wamezeeka, hata hawasikii, wengine hawaoni. Kwa hivyo hii inafaa ipelekwe katika sub-county yao, ipelekwe katika location, na ipelekwe chini mpaka kwa sub-location, na ipelekwe chini zaidi mpaka iende kwa wazee wa mtaa. Ndio wawe kama hawajajua wafikishiwe habari hiyo na wazee wa mtaa. Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo lingine muhimu sana ni kuweka pesa ya kutosha. Iwe ya kwamba ile qualification ama ile kitu mzee anahitaji ni kufikisha tu miaka 70. Sio kupatia nafasi chifu ama assistant chifu ama DCC aambiwe yeye ndiye ataamua ni kina nani wataingia hapo, kwa sababu watu ni wachache. Kwa sababu tukileta hiyo inamaanisha ya kwamba hawa watu wanaweza kutengwa, wale ambao hawana watu wa kuwatetea, wale ambao hawawezi kujizungumzia, na wale ambao hawana watu wa kuangalia ambao wataweza kuzungumza kwa niaba yao. Jambo lile lingine, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kuhakikisha ya kwamba wazee wote wale wako katika mradi huu wameingizwa katika NHIF. Nataka kushukuru sana NHIF ya kwamba saa hii wanajibu magonjwa kama ugonjwa wa saratani, wanafanya pia ile upasuaji speciali ama ile inaitwa specialized surgery, kwa sababu hawa wazee ndio wako na hizo shida ambazo zinahitaji upasuaji, ambao wanahitaji madawa ya magonjwa kama hayo. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, tunapoweka pesa ya kwamba katika mradi huu ni kwamba 2,000 haitoshi, na mbunge wa Kipkelion West na pia mbunge Thaddeus Zambia amesema ya kwamba hii pesa haitoshi, hii 2,000 ni vizuri iongezwe, iwe imepita shilingi 3,000, ndio iweze kuendanisha na nia ambayo ilikuwa imewekwa na waanzilishi wa mradi huu. Na sasa kwa sababu tunapatia Mheshimiwa Rais kipaumbele sana katika kufanya kazi yake, ninataka mimi kama mbunge wa Kitui South kumwambia ya kwamba Rais William Ruto, angalia sana mambo ya wazee, kwa sababu hawa wazee wanahitaji program hii ya uzeeni ndio waweze kupata mahitaji yao ya kila siku, sana sana kununua dawa, waweze kupata mahitaji yao ya kutembea kutoka mahali moja kwenda pengine, ya kulipa pikipiki, na pia waweze kuishi maisha marefu. Mheshimiwa Spika, kumbuka ya kwamba mtu ambaye anangojea kitu anaweza kuishi muda mrefu. Ya kwamba tu unangojea mwisho wa mwezi ufike upate shilingi 2,000 inaweza kukusaidia kuongeza maisha. Na pia wale ambao wanawachunga sana, ndio waendelee kukaa katika familia zao, waendelee kuleta hiyo pesa ambayo inakuja kila mwezi. Kwa hivyo ninaposhukuru Mheshimiwa Zambia kwa kazi nzuri, na kushukuru sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia nafasi.
Member for Masinga. Okay, in his absence, member for Lego Usonga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this very important motion. And Honorable Speaker, from the word go, I would like to say that this is one of the most consequential motions that I've seen on the floor of this House by a member of this House. And more particularly, Honorable Speaker, that this motion has been presented by a member from the minority side. Honorable Speaker, we are in a new dispensation, and we have a new government. And I want to repeat, Honorable Speaker, that just the other day we were going through campaigns and we made various promises to Kenyans. But it looks like the regime in town is interested only in killing old people. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that I feel from where I sit that there's a conspiracy for the leadership of this country to ensure that this country does not benefit from the wisdom of the elderly.
Honorable
Because,
Mungi,
Honorable
what's
Speaker,
our
you know
order?
very well.
Honorable Speaker, if my ear serves me right, I heard the member say that the regime in town is only interested in killing people. Is it in order? Killing in which order? Who is interested to kill who? Can he substantiate and give evidence to this House?
Atandi.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. I wish the member would just listen so that she could understand the flow of thoughts that I'm trying to present on the floor of the House. If you take some more minutes, you realize that the point I've raised on the future of all the people in this country will be justified when I continue, when you allow me to continue with my line of
I
line of
also
thinking.
heard this, what the words you used, that the system is internet killing its own people.
Honorable Speaker, I say it because of failure to attend to the welfare of the old people in this country by the new regime in town is akin to participating in diminishing the health and welfare of the old people in this country. Speaker, that's what I've said, and as I continue, I'll be able to explain further. And add, Honorable Speaker, that the old people in this country are the old people in this country are the custodians of wisdom. Also, Honorable Speaker, the old people in this country are not beneficiaries of universal health scheme that is implemented by the governments. Both count.
What is out of order?
Honorable Speaker, I think the member should withdraw because you can put your thoughts to this House in a more rephrased diplomatic manner. But I think the words he's using are not proper to this House, and for him to continue, I beg that he withdraw.
Honorable Matandi, the motion is a very safe motion. I would suggest you withdraw the remarks about murdering people and proceed with your contribution.
Honorable Speaker, unfortunately, I don't come from the same school of thought like the other members. Neither do we come from the same ideological framework. The ideological framework from where I'm founded.
Honorable Matandi, I would then therefore insist that you substantiate the statement you made. Tell us how many have been murdered by this particular situation.
Honorable Speaker, each and every day, there are many Kenyans who die. I'm sure, Honorable Speaker, you know very well that if I asked you for a list.
Honorable Matandi, I will insist. I was sitting on the chair and I heard you say that this regime has killed or murdered a number of people. Would you give us a list or withdraw and apologize?
Chair, Honorable Speaker, I can give you a list of Kenyans who have died, who were buried last weekend. Is that what you want? Honorable Speaker, I think members are being unfair on me because
the member for Alego, order. You shall substantiate how many people this regime has killed or murdered, or apologize and withdraw.
Honorable Speaker, the point I'm trying to raise, Honorable Speaker, is not to say that the government has taken a bullet or a gun and killed some people. I think that's the interpretation from that side. That is not what I've said. What I've said, Honorable Speaker, is that because of failure by the government to address the concerns of the poor old people in this country, there are many old people who have died.
Honorable Tandi, so it's clear that the regime has not killed or murdered anybody. Would you just withdraw those statements and proceed with your contribution?
Honorable Speaker, it is the duty of government to ensure that lives are protected.
Order.
The right to live.
Order, Honorable Tandi, order. We insist that you withdraw your statement and then proceed with the contribution.
Honorable Speaker, the right to live is constitutional right. And that right must be protected by the government of Kenya.
What you said is that this regime has killed or murdered a number of people. you don't have the list of those who have been murdered. So the order is that you substantiate or withdraw your statement.
Honorable Speaker, by reference, the government has actually contributed to deaths of innocent poor people by failing to provide for them basic services, basic health services, basic rights like food, water. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that there's a gun that has been used to kill Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, allow me to continue and say that
you will not continue. You will not continue in that manner. You will definitely not continue in that manner. You will withdraw and apologize. Order.
Chair. Honorable Batandi, Standing Order 107 at G says the following: that a member commits an act of disorderly conduct if the member makes allegations without, in the Speaker's opinion, adequate substantiation. You have alleged that the current regime has murdered people. I've asked you for a list of those who have been murdered. You've not given us a list. I now order that you withdraw the statements or substantiate.
Honorable Speaker, I would draw the statement simply because of the respect I have for you as my senior. But
you don't have to have conditions. Thank you. Thank you. Proceed.
So Honorable Speaker, I want to inform members of the responsibility that the old people in this country are facing. Most of the old people in this country, Honorable Speaker, are taking care of orphans. They are taking care of orphans abandoned by their children who are either jobless or are in towns or cities looking for how to fend for themselves. They are also taking care of orphans that their parents have passed on because of various diseases such as HIV and AIDS. There are also a lot of our young people in slums who are trying to survive, and therefore their children are left with their old parents. Also, some of the problems that the old people are facing in this country are lack of housing. A lot of old people in the villages that I have visited across the country, whether in Baringo, whether in Turkana, whether in Siaya, a lot of old people don't have shelter, they don't have housing. Also, Honorable Speaker, this is happening when we know that government functionaries are living in opulence. You know, if you see the kind of life that, for instance, the presidency, the kind of life they live, Honorable Speaker, the kind of resources that the government has availed to themselves, officers, ministers, you know, this is really outrageous, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, my message is this: that we cannot have a very luxurious government like the one we have, when a lot of our poor people in the villages cannot afford meals, cannot afford water, and this House must act. And the way for this House to act is to ensure that the coming budget must accommodate the funds that will be sent to the old people across the country. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, the continuous registration of all persons is something that we don't need to remind a serious government. If we had a government...
Give him half a minute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. You know, I was interrupted by this, calls to withdraw. So, Honorable Speaker, if we had a serious government in town, Honorable Speaker, we would not need an opposition MP to come and remind us that there are all people in villages who need to be registered and who need to be provided for by these resources. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, the last time the already registered members who are benefiting from this fund, the last time they received their money was, I think, 4 months ago, and after 1 year hiatus. So really what we need to do, Honorable Speaker, as a House, is that we need to compel this government to ensure that the future of all people are taken care of. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support.
A very good contribution, but messed up by your own drama. I now order that the offensive words uttered by the Honorable Batandi be expunged from the Hansard. This chance goes to the member for Manyata.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise in support of this motion, in cognizant that, Honorable Speaker, Africans, we are taught from a young age to respect our elderly. And Honorable Speaker, it is very African for us to take care of our old people and ensure that they have good lives that they dreamt of. Honorable Speaker, anybody right now who is above 70 years old was here when we were fighting for independence. And if I'm not wrong, Honorable Speaker, this is somebody who was in his youth. So most probably, these are people who have participated in the search of freedom of this country, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the social program that involves giving money to our old people is a program that I really feel it is among the best programs that we have gotten in this country, and a policy that needs to be defended. I hope, Honorable Speaker, just like many motions we have passed in this House, this motion is taken seriously by the ministry concerned. And Honorable Speaker, I seek your guidance to know clearly what happens after we pass motions here that are supposed to be helping this country in terms of governance and in terms of ensuring that we make good of what we get in our exchequers. Number one, Honorable Speaker, I really recommend a continuous registration of the elderly so that we can have an updated data at every single time in this country on the fate of the elderly. And I say that knowing very well that the data that we are using, Honorable Speaker, right now, is a data that is already outdated. In my constituency, Manyata constituency, every time I stop in every single town, I always get the wazees telling me we are not registered for this program. And Honorable Speaker, I feel it's some sort of negligence, knowing very well, Honorable Speaker, that this is a digital age where even fertilizer, today as we are speaking, the government has taken advantage of our mobile phones to register farmers that are actually getting their fertilizers without a big hassle. Just the other day, when His Excellency the President gave some money, I met a queue in Embu town of elderly people all over the county, queuing there day and night, waiting for that 2,000, Honorable Speaker. I felt so sad, and I went to the bank that was involved, and I almost caused havoc because I didn't understand why a 90-year-old man sleeps somewhere for 2 days to get some money. Honorable Speaker, this is a call to the people concerned to actually shape up. And thank you so much, Honorable Member, who has come up with this motion, because I think we are going to follow up as a House to ensure when this motion is passed, because I know it's going to be passed, the ministry concerned should be able to ensure our elderly people are treated with respect. Honorable Speaker, there are so many calls that are going on in this country right now. We have people demonstrating for elections that were passed. We have people that are demonstrating for IEBC. The real demonstrations should be around the issues of our elderly people. And that is when the demonstrations can make sense. The rest of the things, Honorable Speaker, are just side shows. And if you look at it, even the leaders of these demonstrations, if they were not rich, they could be enjoying this 2,000 Kenya shilling that we are asking for our elderly people. I will be in the front line, Honorable Speaker, to ensure that this motion is passed, and at the same time, we ensure that we have the money for the elderly being increased so that we can have...
Dono Masara, what is out of order?
Speaker, is it in order for the honorable member to purport that the leaders of demonstration are rich? Can he substantiate the value of their money and let him mention these leaders of this demonstration? Because yesterday Kenyans decided on their own to demonstrate, to protect their businesses and to demonstrate against the government they voted for. Can he demonstrate? Because the leader of Kenya Kwanza is His Excellency William Ruto. So was it Ruto leading that demonstration? Who was leading that demonstration? Okay. Mr. Speaker, let me know these facts from him.
Honorable Speaker, I think the honorable member is trying to overthink my statement. So many demonstrations are going on in this country, and I have not mentioned any name. I have just said some who are leading these demonstrations are very rich.
You are advised to wind up your contribution.
And Honorable Speaker, it is true that if these people want to change this country, they could
Honorable
focus
Speaker,
their demonstrations.
Wind up your contribution and
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
And be relevant.
And Honorable Speaker, while I'm winding up, I think this motion is welcome, and I want to ensure that this House, when it passes a motion, Honorable Speaker, it is taken serious. And I hope and I seek your guidance so that we don't pass motions here. We have passed a motion on feeding program, a brilliant motion. Nothing has happened since then. We have passed a motion on many things. We need to start following up on those motions so that they don't become pieces of paper lying somewhere collecting dust. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There is a committee called Committee of Implementation in the House. Honorable Wako, what is out of order?
Just a point of information. In the supplementary budget that was passed yesterday, the school feeding program has been captured very well and budgeted for. Thank you.
Well, this chance now goes to the member for Kisii County. And she'll be followed by the honorable member for Seme.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This is a good debate. Honorable Zambia, bravo, and we are with you. Why I support the motion is because the elderly people have many demands, starting from having access to adequate food, water, clothing, housing, coming to health. All these challenges they face need adequate resources. To continue in this process, I would actually urge our institutions to engage in training of staff, to increase competency and ensure that there is administrative capacity to carry out targeting and paying of the older persons through the cash transfer programs. If you did a random sampling, Honorable Speaker, you will realize that the staff that works at these offices, they don't have capacity, and at the same time, they don't have competency. The way they handle the elderly people is not in order. I will also have one point to pass to the youth. The youths of this country, Honorable Speaker, don't have respect to the elderly people, more especially when it comes to how they think of them. You realize that old age is gold. But the challenges they have from bedwetting, they are always discriminated and looked down upon instead of being helped. So our youth should be told that old age is gold, and they should actually be the champions in taking care of the elderly in our society. Also, the elderly people need to be facilitated in terms of health, because most of them don't even speak of their health status. Like when they have prostate cancer, they hardly speak about it, and even going to the health facilities to seek help. We should champion high on how to take care of our elderly, right from what we are doing in terms of increasing their resources. And I insist on electronic way of dispersing their allowances, because it saves time, it saves them, and the money reaches to the right people. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable members, the next opportunity goes to the member for Seme, the Honorable Nikal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Let me start by congratulating the honorable member who has brought this motion. But Madam Speaker, I'm really excited because when I started this program in 2007, after a visit to Brazil, many people thought it was far-fetched, it was not necessary, but now here we are. We have realized that this is an extremely important program. Madam Speaker, old people before in our society were looked after by their children. But with the movement of people to towns, the old people are left in their homes. Even insurance companies don't take old people for health care. So, Madam Speaker, they needed special protection. And hence this program, which we fashioned on the Bolsa Familia program in Brazil, which you know was so popular that the president who started it, despite being forcefully taken to jail, came out of jail and has won the election again. Basically this. But it's not only old people's cash transfer only, it is part of the bigger program of social protection that we started at that time. That includes also cash transfer for orphans and vulnerable children, which was made worse at the time because of HIV/AIDS. And so that old people were, apart from having difficulty with looking after themselves, were also looking after their grandchildren whose parents died from HIV/AIDS. At the same time, it's also part of the program of cash transfer for persons with severe disability. Madam, people with severe disability who need care are a big burden to society because it's not only themselves, but the people who look after them are also locked up and are unable to do any meaningful work. So this is a program that actually is desirable, and Mheshimiwa, it's good for bringing it back. People didn't see its value, but I'm so happy that I've been vindicated that this thing was actually necessary. Madam Speaker, we started it with a policy in 2007, and that's why I was saying earlier that there's a deficit of policy in our governance. And the policy actually went into place in 2007 and laid out exactly what should be done. The Constitution came 2010 when the policy was actually in place, which again strengthened it. And then in 2013, there was the Social Assistance Act, which actually provided for an authority. Unfortunately, this has not been operationalized, and therefore we are working in an environment where the legal framework is actually weak. And I think that is where we should look at. Members have said that there was discrimination. The issue and the reality, Madam Speaker, was that when we started, people felt it was just a pilot. I remember the treasury called me and gave me 500 million shillings and said, do you think this can start it? So we had to start with MEGA, and that is why we had to get a means of identifying people. We were using what is the means testing, look at in your family, what are your means of income and so on, because we did not have enough money and cut the age off at 65. And we also said that actually after the means testing, then this was to be subjected to public opinion by members of the clan. That hasn't worked very well. I know that, because sometimes the chiefs and the assistant chief have actually seems to influence it. But later on, the policy that actually was recommended, and I would recommend that we go to that policy, is get enough finances and get a cutoff. Above that age, everybody gets it. And actually we worked, I think 3 years ago, when I was in Parliament, we worked with the Ministry of Labor at that time and worked out that if you increase the age to 70, we would be able to put enough money so that everybody above 70 gets the stipend without having to identify anybody, in which case you didn't have to know whether they have other income. And that is actually what should be going on. So if we do not have enough money, let's go by 70, take everybody, register them every year, and give them the money. And that is actually what we need to do. And therefore, the registration process need not be so complex, but we can use all the registration we have, the way we do registration for voters, the way we do registration for IDs, particularly for IDs. Every year we know. And we can use electronic means of disbursing this money, because disbursement is another challenge. We are using banks now and agents of banks and e-cards. But again, sometimes the gazelles go and they don't get this money because either their fingerprints can no longer be read or the cards, and they don't get replaced. So people really suffer. So I think we need to actually streamline this. The 1,500 was actually the beginning point. But I think in 2008, there was a motion in Parliament here, I was in Parliament then, that actually recommended that we increase it from 1,500 to 2,000, which actually was implemented. I was in the ministry, we implemented it immediately. So I really ask our colleagues, this is the time, if we mean what we are saying, this is the budget time, let's put more money, and it can be calculated. How much money do we need for all our old people above 70? Put that money in the account. And then we must also look at what are the means of delivery. The banks, the agents, they should have a proper system, because they go there, stay, as a member said, for 2 days, and they have not been paid. So they also, some of them need caretakers, because some of them are even blind. So again, this is a serious issue that we really need to look at. So I think we should digitalize the whole system. The registration should be automatic on age, and we should have a single registry. That was also in program, so that once you are in that registry, you do not get double dipping, because you go to the counties, they're also giving some money. You go to other ministries, you are getting some other social protection programs. The arid lands, there is also a cash transfer program. So if we go for a single registry, so that once you are in the registry, you actually get the money and there can be no duplication. I think, Madam Speaker, this is a program that we must support, and I will ask my colleagues, in this budget, I'm a member of the Social Protection Committee, we are proposing more money, let's get more money, let's do regular registration, let's do digital registration, and let's use modern digitalization to give this money to Aziz. With that, Madam Speaker, I support and really congratulate the honorable member for bringing this before us. Thank you.
I don't have a mic. Thank you very much, member for Seme. The Honorable Wanjiku Muya, member for Kipipiri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And on the onset, I want to support this motion, first by congratulating the Honorable Member for bringing this motion to the House, which I think is timely in terms of this House having created a committee on social protection. Honorable Speaker, this aged people is a very special and delicate group which need special attention to be accorded to them. And I think it is time this House has to relook at the population versus the age. And when we identify that at the age of 65, the numbers are so huge that we can never increase the amount, which is Kenya shillings 2,000, then we may opt to increase the age bracket to 70 or thereabout, so that we can be able to increase the amount. Because, Honorable Speaker, honestly speaking, with the current economic standard today, 2,000 shillings per month is quite minimal. So this House may need, through the Committee of Social Protection, to relook at the age versus the population and come and give this House a solution, and we agree which is the current, the correct age that we should continue. We should also look at the budget, and as much as we fight for our roads, water, electricity, and all other social amenities, I think we should also look at this program with seriousness and allocate the budget that will be enough for this. The main animal on this matter is the disbursement of these funds. Honorable Speaker, you go to the constituencies and you find a 100-year-old man seated in a bank in a corner somewhere, and he came to withdraw 2,000, and because the fingerprints are not able even to show, he has to wait there. And I can say, without fear of contradiction, that this money doesn't also come very smoothly. So I think this House has to guide the country and the ministry by bringing a better and developing better means and ways of how this money can be disbursed. The country may think of a way, maybe a mobile money transfer, and we may even want to invest, maybe heavily invest once and for all, because we can even invest on purchase of mobile phone, the small one, or see how this money can reach the aged at their homestead instead of them traveling long distance. Having said that, there is another issue. Members have spoken of capacity building. This is another animal in this ministry, I can confirm. And I want to bring to the attention of these members that currently there is some activities going on. And I learned this when I was in my church on Sunday, when I had an announcement. And Honorable Speaker, you may not be aware, it could be happening in your county also. This ministry, through the Directorate of Social Assistance or Social Welfare, have sent their staffs to the ground in 20 counties to restructure the system. And it is a very sad affair. Honorable Speaker, I can tell you, I think the whole of yesterday I was struggling with the administration in Kipipiri constituency. I happened to be in my constituency doing bursary form issuance, and I saw a huge crowd, a stranded crowd in a certain stadium. And when I went, I found old men and women of 80 years, 90 years, 100, hungry, thirsty, under very harsh conditions of sun. There was no chief, there was no assistant chief, there was no ACC. I was struggling to find who is addressing these people. And I found 2 officers from this department, and they were telling me they are conducting election. Honorable Speaker, how can a 100-year-old man even know or conceptualize about election? And this election was to spearhead the matters. And I asked my DCC, can we call off these meetings? And these meetings be replanned? Because these meetings, ideally, they will still elect the caregivers. So it beats the logic that the caregivers will be elected, yet they came with their old parents. Why are we making our old parents struggle? They cannot even hear. The hearing system is broken at this age. Some cannot even see. Honorable Speaker, some were carried by border. I witnessed an old woman where a border could not climb a small trench and she fell down. I witnessed another one who just collapsed and fainted because she was hungry. And I had to stop all my program for bursary and organize for energy drinks and something for these people to eat. They were coming from long distance. I want through this motion to call this ministry to order. Even if they do not have capacity, they should have humane eyes. They cannot conduct meetings for the old, for purported election, while the old cannot even afford to see, to hear, or even understand what the election is about. Honorable Speaker, we know the administrations are key pillars in this country. And when these kind of structures are to be administered, it is paramount that the ministry, through their directorate and their officers, should involve the administration like the chiefs, the DCC, the ACC, because these are the people who will give them the ideas. Officers like the directors are seated here in Nairobi, and they give guideline, they give timeline. Because when I inquired further, I was informed this process must end by Wednesday. We can't stop. And another meeting was happening in another location. They have to travel to the ward level, not even at sub-location level. So in essence, I'm saying there is need for capacity building. There is need for the directors in Nairobi to understand the ground, understand these are old people who cannot travel, who cannot vote. They have caregivers, and their caregivers can handle their matter. Finally, Honorable Speaker, as we look at the disbursement, it can also be a nightmare, because some of these caregivers also they take the money of the old and they squander. So it is also a very delicate issue. And I think that's why the government was coming out with the system of the bank. But again, the 100-year going all the way, maybe from Kipipiri to Orkalau, where we have the nearest bank, is also very troublesome. So I want to call the Committee on Social Protection to ban their midnight oil, come out with better ways of disbursement, because this disbursement is a real issue. We call this ministry to order to stop making meetings which are designed for Nairobians or towns or the youth. They come up with the better plans, they give capacity, but also as a house, we allocate enough budget, because I also see they are so much overwhelmed. You find in a sub-county, this ministry has one staff who is handling more than 500 or 1,000 old people. So, Honorable Speaker, I also want to provoke the members' thoughts in terms of health care. I think as a government, especially through the county governments, we can also create a department for the old. Because you find a 80 years old grandma going to the hospital is being attended by a very young man who even communication is a challenge. Because you know these young men and women, they are our sons and daughters, but they are quite in a hurry. So at times, they do not even get the right health care, because the old man or woman is getting shy, is feeling shy to express, to be undressed. And as a government and as a house, I think it's time we may come with a health care policy where we create a department for the old, and any old person who goes, let's say, to Kenyatta National Hospital, he know that he go to that specific department where they can be accorded fast-track services, and the right-aged staffs can also handle them. With that, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you. I'll be putting a question to this House in the course of the week or next week in regard to these purported elections for the old, which is purely mistreatment. Thank you very much.
Very well spoken, member for Kipipiri. Honorable members, I would like to recognize students seated at the public gallery from St. Monica Munyaka Girls Secondary, Kieni constituency. Nyeri County. I would like to welcome you to the National Assembly so that you may continue following proceedings of the House. Thank you, honorable members. The next opportunity goes to the Honorable Joshua Mwalio, member for Masinga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity that you have granted me to speak on the reintroduction of continuous registration of elderly persons in our society. First, I would like to thank the Honorable Zambia for this great motion that he has brought to this House so that we can debate about our elderly people. First of all, it is very important to know that everybody in this house, whether young or old, one day you will become elderly. And it is good to take care of ourselves when we will reach that age. So for us to put something in this government, in fact, it should be a law that everybody who attains at the age of 70, at the moment, I am at 1,040 members who are elderly, who I have put in that scheme, and we pay for them every year. And that has helped me because they no longer come to me for money to be given to be taken to the hospitals. And therefore, I would even urge every member of parliament, if you look very carefully in the act of the NGCDF, there is a social amount whereby you can allocate and you pay for the elderly people so that they are taken care of when they are sick. So in my constituency, 1,040 elderly people, they go to the hospital with their IDs and they are taken care of. That is what we need the government to do. And also, there is something the government did last year. Them that receive the 4,000 shillings as a stipend, they were also registered in the NHIF as members, so that the government pays for them the money, and also at the same time, they take care of their health. So it is very important for us to mind our elderly people so that our days are increased, as the Bible says. We also need to take care of the elderly. We need to come up with a bill to build even home cares. If you go to America, many of the young people that have gone to America, they get trained in the hospitals or in the colleges on how to take care of the elderly in the elderly homes, the home cares. So we need to task this government to be able to take care of the elderly and even to build some homes whereby they take care of. It is only the Catholic Church that has built a few homes, which I know, and they are taking care of the elderly. And as a government, we need to sensitize the government to be able to build these homes. With these few remarks, Madam Speaker, I want to give the remaining minutes for some other members to contribute also. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, member for Masinga. The Honorable Caroline Ngelechei, member for Elgeyo Marakwet. In the absence of the Honorable Ngelechei, I would like to give this opportunity to the Honorable Meli, member for Tinderet.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank Honorable Engineer Zambia for bringing this motion to the House, more so to bring to the attention of the national government and executive on the plight of the aged, the old, the elderly, the members who are actually having a lot of weakness in our society. Honorable Speaker, our constitution is quite clear in Article 57 about the need to care for the vulnerable in the society. And the vulnerable in the society, the vast majority of them are the aged, who are actually 65 years and above. I want to really concur with Honorable Muya, member for Kipipiri, and I do not understand what the PS meant by saying 100-year-olds do elections or 70-year-olds do elections so that they can actually organize their cash transfer. This is quite bad, it's unacceptable to actually put the senior citizens in such a position, knowing that these are the people who actually contributed to the development of this country up to where we are today. We took over from them. They're actually the fathers, the grandfathers, the grandmothers, and the leaders who actually brought Kenya to where it is. So we need to take care of them. Honorable Speaker, I just want to point out that we do not need to go out there again and do all this registration every other time. We need to get a system where we know, the registrar of persons know every Kenyan in this country. We need to digitize. We need to get to know who are vulnerable. Who are these members who are not able to mend or actually to have their needs in the society. They do not have enough food. They do not have houses. They do not have medical equipment, medical facilities. It is upon the ministry, which is actually the Social Protection Department, to really ensure that the cash transfers are done on time and in a humane manner, not taking the old, the aged, to line up in a post bank or in a cash transfer somewhere in the streets, in a street with a lot of sun. And two, we also need to ensure that what these people are supposed to do, the money is supposed to do, is to ensure that they have proper medical cover. I know in the cash transfer and in the social protection scheme, there is an aspect of NHIF, which every other time when the old presented in the medical facilities, it is not working. The facilities normally say the money is not there, the government has not remitted the funds. I think we need, as a house, first of all, to ask the CS and the PS to really give a status report on the health aspect of social protection, the cash transfer aspect of social protection, because you realize that when we go out there in the villages, in our constituencies, the people normally ask us, where is our money? Mheshimiwa, we have not received money for the last 6 months. We have not received money for the last 4 months. On top of that, those who are sick are turned away from hospitals because they are told the NHIF part is not working. So this particular motion, Honorable Speaker, is quite in order, and it is also calls upon the ministry to do proper regulations on how these monies are actually protected. We are, the caregivers of the aged are known to pinch this money. They are known to misuse the money. And even at times, the beneficiaries of this money are also the caregivers, are actually not very trustworthy. Two, even the officers, the field officers in the Social Protection Department need to really look into this. Every other time when you go out there, because members of parliament are actually the first line officers who meets these people every weekend. Ask every member who is here, who goes to their constituencies. The first thing the old men will ask is, we are not getting money. We are not able to buy food. We are not able to even buy blankets. We are not even able to buy medicine because this is the aged. And it is not, and as you all know, members, and I think Honorable Mwali has said, as you aged, medical issues arise. not because of anything. It is because you are aging. And this is actually a very important thing that we need to strengthen as a house. I am calling that let this house enact a law to ensure that the money is transmitted on time to the recipient. 2, those who are actually taking this money from the aged be punished. And 3, the aged should not be taken into a lot of rigorous activities. Prove to yourself that you are alive today, tomorrow, or the other day. That is quite very unfair. That you need to be register yourself this time, next time. Can you stop going to the post office? Now we are going to KCB. From KCB, we are going to the other kind of registration process. Actually, this is quite not good. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, we have other vulnerable people in the society. We have the lame. We have the socially disadvantaged kids in our society. Those people, the orphans, we have certain measures the government has put in place to ensure that the orphans, the disabled, the people who have mental disabilities need to be taken care of. But at times, the government don't disburse funds to these people. They have no very strong social protection mechanism. And I'm asking this House to ensure that we come up with laws that are actually going to protect not only the aged, but other vulnerable members in our society. Those who can't fend for themselves, those who can't take care of themselves, and no one is taking care of them. So this House has a responsibility because we represent both the able and those who are quite very vulnerable. Lastly, we have the issue of bursaries, which cut across the vulnerability in the society. This House also will need, as much as we know the constituencies do a lot in terms of bursary distribution, and I want to thank members for that, but at the same time, we have individuals in our society who are actually very vulnerable in terms of accessing medical care and accessing government facilities. We also need to come up with ways on how to do proper, comprehensive, integrated social protection system in our country. I thank you and I support the motion. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Member for Tinderet. Honorable members, this chance goes to the Honorable Mbeyu, Member for Kilifi County.
Asante, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na unga mkono mjadala huo ambao umeletwa na Mheshimiwa Zambia kutoka Kilome. Mheshimiwa Spika, uendelezi wa kuandikisha wazee wetu ni muhimu ufanyike, na nafikiri ameleta mjadala huu kwa wakati mzuri. Kuanzia mwaka wa 2007 mpaka 2016, Mheshimiwa Spika, utajua kwa wazee wengi waweza kuwa wamefariki, na lazima uandikishaji endelevu uweze kuanza tena ili kusafisha ile orodha ya wazee. Wazee hawa ni kina baba, kina mama, wa mama zetu, wa baba zetu, dada zetu wakubwa ambao wamefikisha kiwango cha miaka ile 65. Mheshimiwa Spika, maisha yamekuwa magumu. Ningependelea hata huu umri pia ushukishwe kufikisha miaka 60, kufikisha miaka 70. Humu Kenya sasa hii imekuwa changamoto. Wazee wanakufa njaa, hakuna maji, mifugo inakufa. Maisha mengi sana yanaishia miaka 50, 55. Mheshimiwa Spika, katika ibara ya 57 ya katiba yetu ya Kenya imeeleza wazi kuangazia changamoto ambazo zinakumba wazee wetu katika maisha yao ya uzeeni, na ni haki kwa sababu iko katika katiba wazee hawa waweze kuangaliwa, na kuangaliwa hasa kwa chakula, fedha na hata makao. Mheshimiwa Spika, wazee wengi wanaishi katika maisha ya uchochole, hawana nyumba, wanaishi tu kwa vibanda. Kwa hivyo ni wakati mzuri sahihi katika bunge hili na katika uangalizi wa wazee wetu iwezekane kuwa wanaweza kupata makao bora, na katika kila mwezi ile pesa ambayo ilikuwa imeweka serikali ya pesa 2,000, Mheshimiwa Spika, 2,000 kwa wakati huu hainunui hata bandari ya unga. Na kama hainunui bandari ya unga, hakuna fedha za mboga. Kwa hivyo pesa hizi kama zitatolewa, mwaka wa 2007 ni kitambo sana. Kama zitafikishwa hata anga 5,000 kwa wazee, na wazee hawa ni wazee kina mama na kina baba, ili aweze kununua bandari ya unga, awe na pesa kidogo ya kununua mafuta, anunue mboga, maharage au pojo, hata omena. Afya yao pia ina wajibu mkuu wa sisi kuangalia vyakula wanavyokula wao si sawasawa na vile vyetu sisi tunakula. Kwa hivyo hali ya afya yao na vyakula, aina ya vyakula vya kulishwa wazee viweze kuangaziwa vizuri. Mheshimiwa Spika, tuweze kuona ni vipi. Mimi kule kwangu Kilifi, wazee wa kule Ganze, kule Magarini, kule Kakuloleni wako mbali sana na maafisa hawa wanaotumika katika tunayoita uhamishaji wa fedha kidijitali, cash transfer. Waone ni vipi katika kazi zao. Mimi nikiwa MCA pale Kibarani kule Kilifi 2013, nilikuwa naona wale ward administrators ndio wanahusishwa zaidi katika kuona wazee wamelipa pesa hizi, ikaweze kutumika, ifike pale chini kabisa kwa kijiji, pesa hizi zifate hawa wazee. Umesikia hapa mzee wa miaka 80, 90, hawezi hata kutembea, hawezi kufika katika zile bank wanalipa. Benki nyingi kule kwangu utazipata ziko Kilifi Town, ziko Malindi, ziko pale Mariakani, Kaloleni na Mtwapa ambapo ni Kilifi South. Kule kwengine benki ziko mbali. Tuone vipi mikakati itafanywa ili pesa hizi zifikie wale wazee binafsi. Manake hata wale wanaitwa next of kin wanaenda kuwachukulia hawa wazee, hawafikishi hizi fedha kwa hawa wazee. Nyingi zinaisha mikononi ya wale wamependekezwa kuwachukulia fedha hizi. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, naunga mkono mjadala huu. Tuone ni vipi katika ile kamati inayohusika hasa iweze kuona pesa hizi zinafikishwa na hawa wahusika kwa wazee waliolengwa ili waweze kusaidika. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Asante sana mbunge wa Kilifi. Nafasi hii itaenda kwa mbunge wa Igembe South ambaye ni Mheshimiwa Paul Mwirigi.
Asante sana Bi Speaker. Pia nami nataka kuchangia mjadala huu na nimpe hongera sana Mheshimiwa Zambia kwa kuleta huu mswada. Madam Speaker, wazee ndio waliotulea tukafika mahali ambapo tuko siku ya leo. Na ni muhimu sana sisi kama wabunge wa juba hili kuangalia na kulitilia uzito jambo hili la malipo ya wazee. Bi Speaker, tukikumbuka ya kwamba usajili wa wazee ulifanyika mwaka 2016 hadi wa leo, Bi Speaker, hiyo kazi ama hilo jambo halijafanyika tena. Ndio maana na shukuru sana Mheshimiwa Zambia kwa kuleta huu mjadala ili tuweze kujadili katika bunge hili, na hili pia nasi sauti zetu ziweze kusikika kwa hii serikali ili kuhakikisha ya kwamba hao wazee wanasajiliwa na pia wanapata hela kwa kila mwezi. Sababu kulingana na vile ambavyo iko kwa sasa, hizi hela za wazee zinakaa zaidi ya ya zaidi ya miezi miwili, miezi mitatu kabla ya hao wazee kupokea hizi hela. Na ikumbukwe ya kwamba hao wazee wengi wao hawana makao pa kuishi, wengine ni wajane, Bi Speaker, na kwa hivyo hawana watu wa kuwashughulikia. Na kwa hivyo ni vyema sana wakati ambapo hao wazee wanapokea malipo yao, wao wanapokea baada ya mwezi. Na vile vile haya malipo yao ya uzeeni, Bi Speaker, kulingana na hali ya maisha vile ambavyo ilivyo wakati huu, ni vyema hizi hela ziweze kuongezewa ili hao wazee waweze kujikimu kimaisha, sababu mambo mengine yanahitaji hela nyingi ili mtu aweze kuishi. Na kwa hivyo ni vyema, Bi Speaker, pia hizi hela ziweze kuangaziwa katika nyongeza zake. Vile vile, Bi Speaker, katika msururu wa usajili, wakati mwingine, Bi Speaker, unakuta wazee wakati ambapo wanasajiliwa kunakuwa na mambo mengi ambayo hao wazee, na ni wazee wa miaka mingi, wanayapitia ili mtu aweze kusajiliwa. Vile vile wengine wale ambao wanasajiliwa, Bi Speaker, ni wale ambao ni marafiki wa wale machifu ambao wanafanya usajili. Na ni vyema kila mtu ama kila mzee ambaye anasajiliwa kusiwe kukawa na ubaguzi wakati wa kusajili, sababu wakati mwingine wazee wale ambao wanafaa kunufaika na hizi hela wanaachwa nje, sababu mimi sio marafiki wa wale ambao wanafanya usajili, ama saa zingine wanaonekana ni kama mimi wametoka familia duni sana, ile ambayo mimi haingeangaliwa, na hizi familia ndizo zile ambazo tunataka ziangaziwe sana. Kwa hivyo ni lazima wakati wa kusajili hao wazee kuwe na mkakati ambao umewekwa ili kuhakikisha ya kwamba wale ambao wanafaa kunufaika wameweza kusajiliwa na ili waweze kunufaika. Vile vile, Bi Speaker, wale ambao wanatumika kuchukulia hawa wazee hela, wale ambao wajiwezi kufika katika benki zetu, wengine wanaenda wanapotea na zile pesa ama wanawaibia hawa wazee. Ni vizuri pia kuwa na mikakati ambayo itatumika kuwachukulia hatua kali wale ambao wanahusika kuwaibia hao wazee, sababu hizi hela ambazo tunazungumza juu yake hapa siku hii ni za kuwasaidia hao wazee ili waweze kuendelea kimaisha vyema. Na pia kwa katiba, Bi Speaker, haya mambo yameangaziwa pale, na kwa hivyo ni jukumu letu kuhakikisha ya kwamba hao wazee wameweza kuhudumiwa vyema na wameweza pia kupata hizi hela ili maisha yao yaweze kuendelea vyema. Bi Speaker, jambo ambalo linanisukuma sana katika, ama lile ambalo linanifanya hata zaidi kuzungumzia haya mambo, ni ya kwamba katika eneo bunge langu la Igembe Kusini, Bi Speaker, mara kwa mara wakati ambapo nazunguka katika constituency hii, wazee wananiuliza, mbona handi kwa sasa, ni kwa nini usajili hauendelei? Na ndio maana nataka kuhimiza serikali ya kwamba mwaka baada ya mwaka kuwe na usajili wa hao wazee, sababu tunajua kila mwaka miaka inaendelea kusonga kidogo, Bi Speaker, na hao wazee bado wanaendelea, ama watu wanaendelea kugeni umri, na kwa hivyo ni vyema kila mwaka usajili uweze kuwa unaendelea. Na kwa hayo machache, Bi Speaker, naomba kuunga. Asante.
Asante sana mbunge wa Igembe. Now the next opportunity goes to the member for Kaiti, the Honorable Kimilu.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this important motion. Madam Speaker, this motion seeks to address the plight of vulnerable elderly persons who are in dire need of financial aid for their sustainability in regard to the healthy and well-being, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank Zambia for bringing this motion on the right time, Madam Speaker, because, Madam Speaker, when we go to our constituencies, Madam Speaker, we get a lot of so many elderly people coming in our offices seeking for money for their well-being, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Kilome borders Kaiti constituency, and we share some markets, and because for the last rains, Kilome did not rain. There was no rains in Kilome constituency, Madam Speaker. And when I was going in the village last weekend, I met so many elderly people coming to the markets to look for food, Madam Speaker. And I think, Madam Speaker, it was not a good show, Madam Speaker. And as members of Parliament, we are here, Madam Speaker. I think it's a high time, because Article 57 of the Constitution, Madam Speaker, outlines the measure to be taken to ensure the rights of elderly persons. It is a fact that elderly persons, particularly those from vulnerable backgrounds, require financial aid for their sustainability in regards of their healthy and well-being, Madam Speaker. In 2007, the government launches the elderly person cash transfer program with the purpose for facilitating the monthly cash transfer to disadvantaged and vulnerable elderly person, Madam Speaker, from identified deserving household, Madam Speaker. In my constituency, Madam Speaker, I came up with a program through NDCDF for these vulnerable people, Madam Speaker, to help them get their NHIF. But when I was sitting here, Madam Speaker, I was trying to project and trying to see the reason why in Zambia came up with this motion. And I thought that Zambia put the situation of the elderly people on his shoes, Madam Speaker. Because we are here, we are young. After Parliament, maybe some of us will go for gym. And I was trying to imagine Zambia when he will be at 90 years. He will not be even in a position to go to that gym or to run here and there, do business. He'll be old people, Madam Speaker. And I was trying to imagine the situation by then, Madam Speaker. So it is important at our age, we try to consider those elderly people because we are coming there, Madam Speaker. And it is very important, Madam Speaker. In my constituency, Madam Speaker, when I was issuing bursaries last weekend, Madam Speaker, I got more than 300 elderly people in my office. They were asking me, today you have issued bursary for students. And for us now, we need money. We have attained at the age of 70 years. And since we have attained the 70 years old, we have not been registered, Madam Speaker. And I request this House, Madam Speaker, we resolve that the national government, Madam Speaker, through the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, undertake continuous and timely registration of the elderly persons and the old person cash transfer program. This will ensure that all deserving elderly persons are registered and benefits from the program, and that there is adequate monitoring and timely disbursement of funds, Madam Speaker. If we make it, Madam Speaker, to be automatic, when you attain the 65 years age, you go to the chief's office, you get registered, and you start automatically getting this cash, Madam Speaker. I think that will help. And Madam Speaker, government has issued fertilizers, cheap fertilizers to our farmers. And in Lower Eastern, Madam Speaker, we experienced short rains. Our people planted. In Makueni, people planted and they were excited to use that fertilizer, Madam Speaker. But I even wrote to the Minister of Agriculture because we, after 2 weeks, we lost rain for only 2 weeks and all the plants died. Reason because maybe that fertilizer was not familiar and was not able to sustain our crops. So I requested the ministry to do research before they give fertilizers because climates of different areas are not the same, Madam Speaker. So people are suffering now. We are in a very harsh situation, Madam Speaker, whereby people are going without food. And if people who are at the age of youth, they are going without food, what of the elderly people, Madam Speaker? So I think as members of parliament, this is the high time we need to stand with our people, and we need to make sure that we pass this motion and make sure that our people can benefit for this cash transfer, Madam Speaker. It's our duty to ensure that the rights of our citizens, including the elderly person, are protected and promoted, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I think it's the right time to support, and I want to thank Honorable Zambia for coming up with such a very, very important and a timely motion. And I want to request my colleagues, we join hands together and support it. Thank you. I support, Madam Speaker.
Very good. Yes. Good. Well spoken. Good.
Well spoken. The Honorable Beatrice Kimei, member for Kericho County.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to actually stand in support of this motion by Honorable Zambia. Madam Speaker, the elderly people in our society are very important people to us. Those are our parents, our grandparents. Those are the people full of wisdom. Those are the people who can advise us and even our youth. So, Madam Speaker, I stand to support this motion about the cash transfer. This is very important to cushion them from poverty and even hunger with the aim of improving their lives, Madam Speaker. It is very interesting that the people who are getting this stipend coming from very humble backgrounds, Madam Speaker, may not have earned anything, not even a shilling from in their past lives. So the government bringing up this stipend is very, very important to them. I would also say that these elderly people, Madam Speaker, having said that they are very important, it is only very interesting that some of them take care of their children and even their grandchildren. And as much as it is beautiful to take care of the children and the grandchildren, sometimes they are burdened. So, Madam Speaker, this initiative will actually assist them improve their lives. But unfortunately, some of them live in houses that are not actually good. Some of them, even the food they eat is not balanced. And some of them, even the clothing, the clothes they wear are not actually good. So in this case, I would say the 2,000 that I are getting as stipend, if possible, and with time, I believe, will be increased so that it will be of great help to them, Madam Speaker. But I want to appreciate some of them. And I'm speaking on behalf of Esther, who comes from my county, and I'm also speaking on behalf of Leah. These two women, they have invested the little that they are getting, the 2,000, they have invested in small business. They are become artisans. They are making the calabashes, they are making beads, and they are selling. So they have improved and they have actually increased their little income. I also know of some old Wases. In particular, Kibrugut, I know him from our village. This Muse has made rungus and even the mats, and is selling them at least to add to the little they are getting. So I want to appreciate those who have put this little money into use. I'm a bit concerned with also the caregivers. Some of them, Madam Speaker, use this money, the little that is going to this, the elderly, instead of letting them have the money, the caregivers use this money. And with the knowledge, they lure the elderly, and even with their knowledge, they also give their requests, not sometimes demand, to pay fees, and even it is like they are being paid for being caregivers. So I'm calling upon our people to give space to these elderly people, let them enjoy the little that is being given by the government. In any case, Madam Speaker, in any case, the aim or the objective of having this money given by the government is even to give opportunity to the able people to have time to do their work, to have time maybe for those who are going to school, to go to school, because the elderly will have been cushioned out of this. And of course, to break the intergenerational poverty, because they have been provided with this little money, Madam Speaker. I would also ask us, as a House, to come out very strongly and support our people, and of course, to support this motion. Having this knowledge that we have other vulnerable groups, people living with disability, and they could be of age or elderly at the same time. We have the orphans, we have the single mothers, we have the widows. Those are also vulnerable groups that need our attention. But I would also say that the responsibilities that many of these people are given should actually be lifted from them. So in essence, I am supporting this motion, but the chiefs and those people concerned should actually register those who are not registered. The people concerned should actually lift the burden from these elderly people. And with that, Madam Speaker, I support, and I say money should not also be stolen from these elderly. With that, I support, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Fatuma Masito, member for Kwale County.
Basi asante sana Bi Speaker kwa kunipatia nafasi hii, nafasi adimu lakini ya kuweza kuongea na mimi. Pia nisikike katika kumbukumbu za bunge hili la 13 nikitetea haki ya wale wazee wanyonge walioko kule nyanjani. Mheshimiwa Speaker, ni juzi tu tulikuwa tunatembea katika safari hii yetu ya kisiasa ya kutuwezesha kufika katika bunge hili la kitaifa. Wazee walikuwa wakinililia, wakiniuliza, mheshimiwa, sisi tutakupeleka bunge, lakini kama sisi wazee mbona tunanyanyaswa? Mbona hatupati haki iliyo yetu ya kikatiba? Nimshukuru Mheshimiwa Zambia, mjumbe wa Kilome, kwa kuweza kuleta hoja hii mbele ya bunge hili. Mimi naiunga mkono 100% hoja hii ya kuweza kuwatetea wazee wetu ambao wametuzaa. Tukiangalia sisi tusingekuwa hapa kama si wale wazee ambao walituzaa kule nyanjani tulikotoka. Tunawapatia heshima kuu na kuwatetea kuwa bunge hili, naomba bunge hili liweze kuwasaidia kupitisha hoja hii, waweze kuongezwa kwanza zile pesa zao, na pia waweze kuongezwa tangu mwaka 2016 mradi huu uliposimama wa kuongeza pesa, basi bunge hili liweze kupitisha kuunga mkono waongezwe, wale wazee waongezwe katika ile kuandikishwa. Pili, pia pesa ile, Bi Speaker, ni pesa finyu sana. Kule kwetu tunasema ni pesa ya wazee kununua tumbaku peke yake. Ni pesa ambayo yule mzee hawezi kujikimu maisha yake, na yeye amezaa watu ambao ni wa kuheshimika, watu wazima, amepoteza nguvu zake. Kuna wazee wengine, mimi Mheshimiwa Speaker, nimetoka sehemu ya Kwale. Sehemu ya Kwale ina maeneo bunge 4. Kuna Lungalunga, Msambweni, Matuga na Kinango. Zile sehemu zina wazee walio wanyonge zaidi. Tukiangalia pesa hizi wakati zinatolewa mahali katikati. mzee atembee au atumie ile njia ya usafiri ya bodaboda kuweza kumfikisha katika kituo. Wengine wanatumia hata siku 3 kuweza kupata zile pesa zile. Wakifika katika mabenki yale, Madam Speaker, mzee anakaa siku 2 kwenye baridi kusubiri pesa ile aweze kupata. Speaker, pia ningeomba zile huduma ziweze kushukishwa kule nyanjani. Tusimpate mzee ametoka Kinango lakini anakuja kuchukua pesa pale Kwale. Kwale ni pale mahali tunasema ni county headquarters. Anakuja kuchukua pesa pale county headquarters. Na ametoka sehemu takriban kilomita 200-300. Hiyo ni hujuma pia, ni kama tunawasaidia lakini pia tunawanyanyasa kwa njia moja au nyingine. Mzee amekaa kwenye baridi siku 2 kungoja shilingi 2,000. Kingine pia, wale ndugu zetu wanaowachukulia wale wazee zile pesa, ningependa pia wawatendee haki. Kwa sababu sisi kama jamii ya Wapwani au jamii ya Kiislamu tunaamini dhulma ni kitu kibaya. Wewe umemleta yule mzee aliyemnyonge, maskini pengine pia haelewi anapokea pesa ngapi, alafu wewe pale pale unaweza kuchukua zile pesa kitita fulani unatia mfukoni. Serikali lazima itafute njia nzuri, njia mbadala ya wale wazee kuweza kufaidika wao wenyewe direct. Kingine, Speaker, nilipata kukutana na wazee ambao wamekuja sehemu ile kuchukua pesa. Lakini unapata mzee anafanyishwa ile nenda rudi kwa sababu ya hizi alama za vidole. Wakati mwingi wazee wakifika umri fulani, hizi alama za vidole kwa lugha ya Kiingereza zinaitwa fingerprints, zinapotea. Unapata mzee anaambiwa huwezi kupata pesa kwa sababu fingerprints zako zimepotea. Mzee yule anataabika. Anakaa kwenye jua, anakaa kwenye baridi siku 2-3, na pengine pia asipate zile pesa, arudi nyumbani tena arudi baada ya miezi 6. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama tunawasaidia wazee hawa, basi pia haki itendeke na tuweze kuwafanyia njia nyepesi ya kuweza kufaidika na pesa zile. Chengine pia ambacho ningependa kuongeza chumvi au kuongeza uzito wa hoja hii iliyoletwa na mheshimiwa wa kutoka Kilome, Mheshimiwa Zambia, ni kufikiria katika bunge hili na taifa hili letu na serikali yetu hii tulionayo, tuwafikirie wale wazee wetu kuweza kupata bima ya afya. Wazee wengi ni wajane, na sisi tunajifahamu katika jamii, mara nyingi wazee wale huwa wametekelezwa, hawaangaliwi, hawashughulikiwi, hakuna mtu anayewajali, na pia matibabu inakuwa ni shida kuweza kupata. Basi mimi nimshukuru Madam Speaker kwa kuweza kunipatia nafasi hii. Mwisho niseme ninaunga mkono hoja hii 100%. Asante sana, Bi Speaker.
Asante sana. Nafasi ya sasa itaenda kwa Mheshimiwa Naomi Wako ambaye ni mbunge wa Marsabit County.
Asante sana, Bi Speaker. Ningetaka kuchukua wakati huu kushukuru mwenye ameleta Honorable Zambia, mwenye ameleta hii motion ambao ni ya kutusaidia na kusaidia wale ambao ni wazee katika mahali ambao tunatoka. Na tena ningetaka tu kusema ya kwamba mimi nina support hii hoja kwa sababu ni hoja ya maana na ni kitu ambao tukipitisha inaweza kusaidia wale watu ambao wanatuombea na wale ambao wanatupatia support zao kutoka pale kwa grounds. Vile tunavyojua sisi wa Afrika ni watu ambao tumekuwa tukichunga wenzetu na ni watu wa kuchungana. Lakini hivi sasa hiyo hali ya kuchunga na kusaidiana imeisha na watu hawakumbuki, hata vijana ama wasichana, watoto hawakumbuki kutunza wazazi wao vile tulikuwa tunafanya hapo awali kama Waafrika. Hiyo ni kusema ya kwamba hiyo culture ambao tumepoteza inaendelea kutuaffect, na hiyo ndio inapeleka watu wetu wazee wawe wanaumia kwa njia mbalimbali katika mwaka yao ambao imeenda. Speaker, tukiangalia vizuri katika mahali ambao tunatoka, kama ni county, kama mimi ninatoka county ya Marsabit, na kule tuko na mahali mbalimbali na zile constituencies ambao watu wetu wako, tuna distance kubwa sana, kama kilomita zaidi ya 300, mara zaidi ya 400. Na kwa hivyo nina support hii kwa sababu tunajua ya kwamba wazee wetu huwa wanatembea ama wanabebwa na wanaumia, wengine hata hawana hali ya afya nzuri, na kwa hivyo wanaumia kwa njia mbalimbali. Hapa ningependa kusema ya kwamba service wapelekewe karibu ili waweze kuhudumiwa kwa njia ambao inawakaribia sana. Tena kwa mambo ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba wale ambao wamefikisha miaka 60 ama 65 wote wameweza kuwekwa kwa register na waangaliwe vizuri, kwa sababu wakati wa kampeni nakumbuka nimeenda mahali mbalimbali na wazee wengi hawako kwa hiyo list na hawako kwa hiyo hiyo list ya watu ambao wanahudumiwa na wanapata hii pesa. Na kwa hivyo hata katika registration wale ambao wanahusika, machifu na wazee wa kijiji wenye wanasimamia hiyo mambo, wanafaa kuangalia kwa makini na waangalie kweli ni kina nani wanafaa kupata. Na hata kama tunasema ya kwamba wazee wote wako na haki ya kupata, kati ya wazee, Speaker, kuna wale ambao ni disabled, ambao hawajiwezi, wanahitaji kupewa nafasi ya kwanza ili waweze kupata nafasi na wahudumiwe kwa njia ya karibu sana. Na tena kati ya wale ambao ni wazee ambao wamepita hapo, kuna wale ambao wako kwa hali ya umaskini ambao ni kali sana. Na kwa hivyo hata kama tunasema wazee wote ambao wamefikisha miaka 60, 65 waangaliwe, tena kati ya hiyo watu waangalie ni nani ndio maskini zaidi, ni nani ndio hajiwezi kabisa, na ni nani ndio pengine ako na shida ambao pengine hata sisi hatutaweza kusema, kwa sababu wengine wako na mambo ya afya, wengine wako na mambo ya blood pressure, wengine wako na shida ya shukari ambao inaenda kupanda na inawasumbua, na wengine hata wako na shida ambao pengine inahitaji mambo ya matibabu. Na kwa hivyo hata tukirecommend wapate hii usaidizi, mambo ya afya yao pia inafaa kuangaliwa na waweze kupata huduma ya karibu, hasa wale ambao wanaumia kwa njia mbalimbali. Ningetaka kusema ya kwamba sisi ni Waafrika, tena ninarudi vile tu nimeanza, na wale ambao wako na wazazi wao tuwapatie attention ambao inatakikana. Hata katika Biblia, katika commandment ya 5, tunaambiwa ya kwamba tunafaa kuangalia wazazi wetu kwa njia nzuri ili tuweze kupata baraka. Na kwa hivyo watu waangalie wazazi wao, watu waweze kuwachunga, na sisi pia ninajua kwamba kama Kenya Kwanza, serikali ya Kenya Kwanza, kuna uhakikisho ambao tumepatia watu. Tutakuwa tunashughulikia watu ambao wako kategori mbalimbali katika nchi yetu ya Kenya, na haswa wazee ambao wamepitisha miaka 65 na wanahitaji hiyo huduma kwetu ili waweze kuishi kwa maisha ambao inafaa. Madam Speaker, nina support hii na ninaomba watu wote waweze kusupport na iweze kupita. Asante.
Mheshimiwa, ningependa kupatia nafasi hii mheshimiwa wetu ambaye anaitwa Gonzi Rai, na atafuatwa na mheshimiwa Waluke, mbunge wa Sirisia.
Kwanza nishukuru Bi Speaker kwa kunipa nafasi hii, kwa sababu baada ya kupewa likizo na wananchi 2017, ilipofika 2022 waliona kwamba hili bunge linakosa wazee, ndio maana wakaniregesha katika bunge hili, na hii hoja inahusiana na wazee. Kwa hivyo nakushukuru kule kutambua, na pia kushukuru Mheshimiwa Zambia kwa sababu ya kuleta hii hoja, kwa sababu ni ya muhimu sana katika bunge na jamhuri nzima, kwa sababu kuwakumbuka wazee ni kama kuikumbuka kale yetu. Bwana Spika, hoja hii tunaizungumzia kwa sababu usajili ulikomeshwa zaidi ya karibu miaka 7 iliyopita, na hadi kufikia hivi sasa mambo mengi yamepita. Lakini kitu ambacho penginepo ningelikiomba, kwa sababu ushuhuda ambao niliushuhudia wakati nilipokuwa likizoni, niliona kwamba hawa wazee wanastahili kupewa heshima, kwa sababu watu hawa hatungekuwa na taifa tulio nalo hivi sasa ni kwa sababu ya hawa wazee. Lakini hali wanayoishi na hali wanayochukuliwa, Bi Speaker, wanachukuliwa kama ambaye ni watu waliolaaniwa. Sehemu nayotoka ya Kinango ni sehemu kame. Sasa kama sehemu ni kame na hali ya wazee huwa ina zombi ambayo yanawasilishwa kwa njia ya simu kwamba kumekuja wazee, lakini chakula hawajakula kwa zaidi ya siku 3, na umri wao ni wale wa kuzidi miaka 65 na kuendelea. Sasa ukiangalia kweli, kama taifa tunaweza kusema tunaendelea, lakini kama jamii kama ile imeachwa nyuma, huwa ni mateso makubwa sana. Kufaulu kwetu kama jamii ni kuwakumbuka hawa wazee wetu na kujua kwamba ni watu ambao wanastahili kutunzwa. Na kwa sababu kutoka mwisho wa usajili miaka 7 iliyopita, pesa tunazowapatia na ule utaratibu unaofuata, wakati mwingine inakuwa kama ndoto, kwa sababu unasajiliwa mpaka wakati mwingine unakumbana na mauti, ndio pesa zinaingia. Na wale pia wakati mwingine tunaorodhesha kuwa kama next of kin, tunapowatuma kwenda kuwasaidia wazee hawa, wao pia wanatumia ufisadi na kuwalangua wazee hawa apelekwe kwa benki, na akifika hapo anatidishwa sign, akirudi anaambiwa pesa zimekosekana na pesa zimetoka. Nakumbuka dhahiri kwamba wakati mmoja kulikuwa na mzee kule Pwani ambaye alikuwa amefanya kazi halmashauri ya bandari za Kenya zaidi ya karibu miaka 30. Sasa akawa ameenda retire na pesa yake inaingia kwa benki ya Bankless Bank. Lakini alikuwa kila akienda benki anakwenda na kijana ili aende akatolewe pesa. Lakini jambo lilokuja kudhihirika baadaye ni kwamba kijana alikuwa akimchukua mzazi akimpeleka kwa benki, na akifika anamjazia fomu ya kutoa pesa, na baadaye anamwambia pesa hazijaingia. Mpaka pesa zilipokwisha, mzee ikabidi atafute msaada wa mjumbe ili apate kujua kwa nini pesa zake zimechelewa. Tulipokuja kuuliza swala katika bunge hili, tukapata ripoti kutoka kwa halmashauri ya bandari kwamba pesa zilikuwa zimeingia benki. Tulipofika kwa benki tukapata kwamba pesa, mzee alikuwa amefanya withdrawal zaidi ya karibu 25, lakini hakumbuki hata siku moja kupewa shilingi, na pesa zote zimetoka. Kwa hivyo watu hawa wanastahili kuwa na uangalifu mzuri sana, kwa sababu hata kile kipengee cha kuwasajili wakati mwingine kinakumbwa na utata. Unamkuta mama ni mjane, anakuja kwako anakwambia, mimi nimefikisha umri na wenzangu wameandikishwa, lakini mimi sijaandikishwa. Na ukijaribu kutafuta suluhisho ama sababu zinakosekana. Kwa hivyo wakati mwingi kama tunakwenda kusajili watu kwa sababu ya mambo ya kura, kuna utaratibu unaotumika na watu wote wanapata kura. Usajili wa wazee wetu ungestahili kuja na utaratibu fulani wa kuhakikisha kwamba hawa wazee wanasajiliwa vilivyo, kwa sababu hadi kufikia sasa idadi ya wale watu wanaofaidika na pesa za uzee ni wachache kuliko wale wengi ambao ni wazee na hawajasajiliwa na hawajapata pesa. Sasa kilio chao, masikitiko yao, tunasema tuna climate change katika nchi. Nchi imekataa kutupa mvua, ardhi imekataa kutupa chakula kwa sababu ya laana za watu tunaowatesa. Speaker, aliyoyafanya Mheshimiwa Zamba alikumbuka sana na akajua kwamba ni dhahiri shahiri kwamba wazee wetu wanateseka. Na si kwamba tulizungumze swala hili tulimalize, tukilipitisha lipate utaratibu wake wa kuhakikisha kwamba pesa hizi zimepatikana na kwamba kutakuwa na utaratibu mwafaka wa usajili, utaratibu mwafaka wa kujua kwamba watapata pesa zao kila baada ya muda gani, ili ijulikane kwamba ni msimu, kama vile mfanyikazi anapokwenda akiangalia mshahara wake kwa sababu pesa zimetoka. Labda ingekuwa bora kama pesa hizi zinapokuwa zimetoka na kwenda katika benki zao. Hakuna dhambi kuweka hata kama ni orodha ya majina yao, ili kuhakikisha kwamba mwenye kwenda benki ana hakika pesa ziko, kuliko ufunge safari utoke Kinango mpaka Mariakani, utoke Kinango mpaka Kwale, ukifika pesa hakuna, tikiti uliotumia imezidi pesa ulizolipwa. Speaker, swala hili linauma. Ninashukuru na nina matumaini kwamba heko na sifa zimfikie mjumbe, kwa sababu ni hoja nyingi zinazoletwa katika jumba hili, lakini hii hoja ni ya muhimu sana. Kwa hivyo nashukuru kwa sababu ya kunipa nafasi ili ikapate kueleweka kwamba ni hoja ya maana sana, na hasa katika siku hii ya leo. Kwa hivyo ninashukuru nikisema, Speaker, Mungu na akubariki na tuendelee kupeleka mbele bunge letu. Asante.
Asante Mheshimiwa. Mheshimiwa wa Sirisia ambaye ni Mheshimiwa John Waluke.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me time also to speak about this important motion. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the MP who came up with this motion, Mheshimiwa Zambia, and I urge all the members of this House, Madam Speaker, to pass this motion. It touches all the counties, 47 counties of this country, Madam Speaker, and it touches all the 290 constituencies where we come from, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, these people are important to us. They are our parents, they are our grandfathers, grandmothers, and Madam Speaker, these people need help. They need support from us as their sons and granddaughters, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the government sometimes delay to disperse the monies to these old age persons, Madam Speaker. And as a House, Madam Speaker, we are the ones who make laws. We are the ones who deal with the budget, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we need to increase monies from 2,000 to 4,000, Madam Speaker, or 5,000 so that these people should be helped. They are human beings. They travel to look for medical facilities, Madam Speaker, and they need transport, not for free. So, Madam Speaker, that is why we need to increase the money to these old age people, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, from 800 that were registered, Madam Speaker, in a period of 7 years, Madam Speaker, there are very many people who have aged. And we need to register, Madam Speaker. We passed a law that we need to register up to 4 million people, Madam Speaker, because at home there are many in every constituency, in every ward where we come from, Madam Speaker. These people are there and they have not been registered, and they have reached 70 years. And we need to reverse even from 70 years back to 65, Madam Speaker, so that it captures people when they are, we need to help them when they are alive. Not that when they are dead is when we can talk about them, Madam Speaker. Registration should be enhanced so that they get captured. Madam Speaker, we need to give them NHIF. Government should give them NHIF card so that when they are taken to hospital, it will be easy for them to, the government had already paid for them so that they get proper treatment when they are sick, instead of waiting or looking for money or for their member of parliament to send them money for treatment, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, these people, when they are at home, they need help. They need support in every kind, Madam Speaker, either to, there are some who are even more than 100 years, and they are supposed to also to get facilities to help them. Some need maybe wheelchairs they don't have. So, Madam Speaker, as a house, we need to pass the law that governs these people, that can take care about the old age people, Madam Speaker. Because of time, there's a lady who came here to ask for me to donate my time to her, my colleague, Madam Speaker. I support this motion, and I urge all members that we pass this motion for our own need. So thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I support.
Thank you, Honorable Aluke. The next opportunity, honorable members, goes to the Honorable Richard Yegon, member for Bomet East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. First of all, let me thank you for this opportunity, and I would like to say, sincerely, I came in when around 15 people was in the house, and they've talked more than 20 people, and I want to know the chemistry of having time to have an opportunity to talk and contribute to this very important motion. Madam Speaker, I'm not going to take my time today because I think most of my colleagues have contributed and said many things which I have noted down. I wanted to contribute about it. First of all, I would like to say there is need to fast-track the registration of these elderly people, which my colleagues have said. Madam Speaker, for sure, these elderly people in my constituency, we have had a lot of challenges whereby most of people from 2016 up to...
I just want to give some guidance to the Honorable Catherine Omanyo. I know you really want to speak on this motion and many members are keen. However, the Honorable Member for Sirisia cannot donate time for you. The only person who can donate time for you is the sponsor of the motion, who is the Honorable Waluke. So I order that you continue. The Honorable Zambia, member for Kilome. So it is out of order for the Honorable Waluke to donate time to the Honorable Catherine Omanyo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I was saying from 2016, there's never been any registrations up to now, whereby we have so many people who have qualified for this scheme. And I would like to say also that as much as we want this registration to continue also, we want to make sure that also, Madam Speaker, that should be a record, because so many people are also dying. Some people are also dying, whereby they need to be struck out of the register. Madam Speaker, some people, I've seen also some people who are just using the people who are dead, and they're using their IDs or identifications to get the money for these elderly people or those who are dead. What I want to say is that they need to be struck out of the register so that we can also save the government from the money which is going to waste, and give the right people who have qualified by attaining the age of 65. Madam Speaker, we also need to have a consistent transfer for these funds. I say this because you saw recently that the last regime, there were some, these elderly people who went for a very long time or a period of time before they get these monies. I know this administration have come in and they've started dispersing the monies, which we need to, this thing to continue by being consistent, and every month these people have to have the money. Also, I'm supporting the idea whereby we need to have these monies raised from a certain, the figure which has been 2,100 up to at least up to 4,000 or 5,000. And again, the idea of having these people have the NHIF card to facilitate them to hospital and avoid the challenges they are facing when they feel sick. Madam Speaker, with those very few remarks, I want to say I support the motion. Thank you so much.
Honorable members, I would like to give this opportunity to the Honorable Lillian Sioi, member for Trans Nzoia County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance to contribute to this motion that has been brought up by Honorable Zambia. Honorable Madam Speaker, I would want to support this motion by saying, actually, it is very important that this is the time for this nation to give back to the elderly, because these elderly are the very same people who really contributed to the economy of this country, and now that they are not able to work at the moment, it is important that we consider them at the age of 65 and above. And as well stipulated by a number of members of parliament, the modality is what we really want to discuss about, because, Madam Speaker, in Trans Nzoia County, I remember having walked in a certain street, and I was surprised to see some elderly members queuing up for this money that they're supposed to receive, and I felt actually we are not doing any justice to these elderly people. So I would wish to say that we should have a modality on how we are going to disburse the money to the elderly, not actually through the banks, but if possible, if we can disburse the money probably through the sub-counties, or we give them direct to their phones so that they can access their money softly without having gone through hell to go and get the money. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I also want to say that the elderly, the way on how we are registering the elderly should change. We should have a way on how we are going to register them, because at the age of 65, I want to believe that we should be having the data of these people, and it should be automatic that when you attain the age of 65, automatically you are registered in the system so that you start receiving this electronic transfer for the elderly. So, Madam Speaker, bearing in mind that it's almost lunchtime, I want to stop there, and I want to thank you and support this motion by saying that we need to put aside money for the elderly for the electronic transfer. Thank you.
Honorable, I'll give another one more person, the Honorable Agnes Pereio, member for Narok North.
Asante sana Madam Speaker kwa nafasi hii ambayo umenipa ili nami nipate kuchangia huu mjadala ya wazee wakongwe ambayo wanahitaji kutunzwa na kuchungwa. Na ningependa kabla sijaendelea kumshukuru mjumbe ambaye alileta huu mjadala, kwa sababu huu ni mjadala wa maana, kwa sababu hata nasi, hata kama hatuko hapo, tunaelekea hapo. Na nafikiri ni jukumu la serikali kuhakikisha hawa wakongwe wamechungwa na wamepata dawa na wameweza kupata chakula. Na ukiangalia vile inaendelea sasa.
Order, Honorable Pereyo. Honorable Pereyo will have a balance of 9 minutes to debate this motion, honorable members. And therefore, honorable members, the time being 1:01 o'clock, this House stands adjourned up to 2:30 p.m. today, Wednesday, 1st of March, 2023.